481. Cut off time, Daoshu realm. There is no immortal lord after the chaos of ancient times. It wasn't until you arrived in the ancient chaos epoch, 50 billion years ago, that you finally stopped. You stopped, not because your cultivation from the sacrifice was exhausted, but because you encountered an invisible barrier here. It prevented you from continuing to rewind time. What is this? You looked at the vast world before you with some shock, as it had actually cut off the river of time, dividing it into two parts, upper and lower. That invisible barrier was precisely the boundary wall of this world. Such a method was already beyond your imagination. To cut off the river of time, even an immortal venerable couldn't possess such a great divine power, could they? And that great world, which cut off the river of time, was shrouded in a hazy glow, making it difficult to see clearly. You had not seen such a situation in ancient texts and did not know who was responsible for it. The path ahead was cut off, and only 1% of the cultivation generated by the sacrifice remained, so you distributed this cultivation to some of your more powerful other selves. Soon, you had over 300 more other selves at the Emperor Light Realm. At this point, you left the river of time, your heart unable to calm for a long time. The further back you went, the shorter the time you could rewind. 20 billion years was the limit for most quasi-immortal emperors. After that, they would choose to fuse with their other selves. Your ability to rewind 50 billion years was entirely achieved with the help of the cultivation feedback after sacrificing the Emperor Star. Generally speaking, only immortal emperors of the 4th or 5th realm and above could reach this point. Even so, quite a few immortal emperors had reached this place. Why was there no information ever revealed to the outside world about the river of time being cut off by a mysterious world? Could it be that these immortal emperors were deliberately hiding something? Or was it that, your gaze sharpened, and you arrived before the doomsday altar? You saw various memory fragments of Crown Prince Kaiyuan on it. You did not find any information about the mysterious world in these memory fragments. You clearly saw that Crown Prince Kaiyuan had once arrived 50 billion years ago. He also encountered a barrier here. However, unlike you, he did not see that mysterious world. In his eyes, the river of time was as usual, only an invisible barrier suddenly appeared before him. Why could you see what he couldn't, even without using your eye of illusory breaking? Crown Prince Kaiyuan merely thought it was a bottleneck in his cultivation and had even sought advice from Holy Emperor Kaiyuan. Holy Emperor Kaiyuan, however, was tight-lipped about it, telling him to focus on cultivating in the ancestral court and not to spend too much effort on the river of time. In your eyes, this was clearly a deliberate concealment. Subsequently, you had your Tao body in the Golden Hall Heavenly Court seek advice from Flying Peng Immortal Emperor. Fei Peng replied, although the realm's history spans over 100 billion years, the limit for rewinding history is only 50 billion years. This is well known among high-level immortal emperors. But the specific reason, only an immortal venerable would likely know. Fei Peng guessed that it might be a kind of heavenly rule. You were slightly disappointed that you didn't get the answer you wanted from Fei Peng. But there was one person who should be able to enlighten you. That was, Evil Sword Immortal. He was the evil thought of a half-step immortal exalted. As a giant within the realm, a half-step immortal exalted could not possibly be unaware. However, that fellow, Evil Sword Immortal, hadn't appeared recently. When you didn't want him to appear, he would pop out and lecture you on the great truths of life. When you wanted him to appear, he would hide somewhere unknown. Since he wouldn't come out, you would go find him. Having rewound to 50 billion years ago, although your realm had not broken through, your strength had advanced another level, definitely not weaker than the 7th level Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. If you wanted to go to the Evil Soul Continent, he couldn't stop you. However, it was his territory after all, so you decided to be a bit more low-key and sneak there under the cover of night. The Evil Soul Continent had dense restrictions, and one wrong move could easily trigger alarms and killing formations. But under your heaven-defying comprehension ability and eye of illusory breaking, all restrictions were rendered useless. You quickly arrived outside the soul-locking pagoda. Inside the soul-locking pagoda, Evil Sword Immortal sensed your arrival and said, the Tao and justice in the human world are all illusory, fundamentally unable to withstand tests. Only profit is eternal. It seems you've finally understood. Don't worry, as long as you release me, I will never break my word. I will impart all my lifelong knowledge to you. You were speechless. This guy was clearly formed from an evil thought, so why did he always make himself out to be a life mentor? You told him that you had come this time to ask him some questions. What exactly was that mysterious world 50 billion years ago in the river of time? Evil Sword Immortal said in surprise, you can actually see it. Your comprehension ability is quite astonishing, comparable to an immortal Venerable. Then, he sighed, what a pity. If you had been born before ancient chaos, you might not have been unable to become an immortal Venerable. You asked curiously, does that mean after ancient chaos, one cannot cultivate to become an immortal Venerable? Evil Sword Immortal said, that's right, there are no immortal Venerables after ancient chaos. This is an iron rule of the immortal realm. Only the Emperor Star and the Demon Star, with the help of the realm's luck, have a sliver of a chance. But, even if they want to become an immortal Venerable, they must enter that mysterious world you saw, which is called the Tao Ruins realm. Evil Sword Immortal said, speaking of which, do you think the Tao Ruins realm is restricting the living beings of the realm after ancient chaos? You retorted, isn't it? Evil Sword Immortal said in a deep voice, of course not. It is precisely because of it that the living beings of the realm have enjoyed hundreds of billions of years of peace. Because the Tao Ruins realm was created by many immortal Venerables of the realm to block the powerhouses of the prehistoric era. If the Tao Ruins realm did not exist, the position of Immortal Emperor in our epoch would have long been in the grasp of the prehistoric powerhouses. Your mind was shaken, you hadn't expected the Tao Ruins realm to be such an existence. It separated ancient and modern times, just to contend for a glimmer of hope for future generations. Indeed, the higher one stood, the further one saw, and the pressure was also extraordinarily immense. You asked how to enter the Tao Ruins realm. Evil Sword Immortal then began to negotiate with you, saying that if you released him, he would tell you how to enter. This guy was an immortal Venerable's evil thought, even the previous Golden Hall Immortal Emperor almost failed to restrain him. Your current strength was not weak, and if it was just like this, it might not be impossible to release him. The most crucial point was that Fei Peng told you that Evil Sword Immortal could rapidly increase his strength by devouring the evil thoughts of living beings. This ability was undoubtedly much more terrifying than Wu Tian Demon Ancestor's ability to devour Buddha power. As long as there were living beings, he could increase his strength. This was also the reason why Golden Hall Immortal Emperor had desperately tried to seal him in the first place. Once he was released, he would be more cautious than last time, and there was absolutely a risk of destroying the entire Might Virtue Heaven. 482. Devour him and me, ruin the place. Beat up the Supreme Emperor. Your current true realm has not yet breakthrough to Immortal Emperor, there's no need to rush into the Tao Ruins realm. Wait until you have the absolute strength to suppress Evil Sword Immortal before releasing him, it won't be too late. Of course, you might also be able to find a way to enter the Tao Ruins realm through other channels. You left the Evil Soul Continent. Next, you plan to enter seclusion to break through to Immortal Emperor. Breaking through to Immortal Emperor mainly depends on the strength of your divine law and the number of your other selves you have achieved fusion with. As for your other selves, you have already gathered 990 quasi-Immortal Emperor other selves, you can directly achieve fusion with them. During the fusion process, strength is secondary, the most important aspect is the fusion of the true spirits. Your true spirit and the true spirits of all your other selves originated from the same innate spirit at the time of creation. However, they have been separated for over 100 billion years. Each has developed its own characteristics. The fusion process will certainly not be easy. Take Xiao Shu Immortal King, for example, even with his imperial star, being a rebirth, and having an immortal Venerable's guidance, it still took him decades to achieve fusion with a single ordinary true spirit of another self. And these true spirits of your other selves have been cultivated by you to be exceptionally powerful. The difficulty of fusion will only be higher than that of Xiao Shu Immortal King. Fortunately, your comprehension ability is comparable to an immortal Venerable's, and you possess infinite enlightenment. During the fusion process, it saves you 99% of the time. You only need 1 month to achieve fusion with a quasi-immortal Emperor level other self. To accelerate the fusion progress, you also simultaneously achieved fusion and created your own Immortal Emperor law suitable for achieving fusion with your other selves. The further you proceed, the faster your fusion speed will become. As for the divine law aspect, you are very confident in your myriad law's divine rule. However, the immortal domain Heavenly Tao has given you several shadows, and you are afraid that it will cause trouble when you break through, so you still need to strengthen it. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed, and you had already achieved fusion with 4 other selves. Just then, someone caused trouble on the mountain and sea continent under your jurisdiction, smashing a large auction house under the pretext of a dark deal. The troublemaker was Chen Qiwan, the second disciple of Zunji Immortal Emperor, one of the 3 heavenly emperors. With your Hongmengdao palace and time bottle, you possess countless treasures, and your auction business is booming. In just a few years, you have gained immense fame in the Golden Hall Immortal Court, seizing more than half of the auction business. When your auction business thrived, other auction businesses naturally declined. Chen Qiwan controlled most of the auction business on Zunji continent. He also accounted for a full 20% of the entire Golden Hall Immortal Court's auction business. He could be said to be a major merchant in the Golden Hall Immortal Court. But ever since you arrived in the Golden Hall Immortal Court and started your auction business, his family's business plummeted. How dare you, a mere Earth Emperor, be so arrogant? This time, he deliberately came to cause trouble. After clarifying the reason, you sneered, directly sent people to cripple his cultivation, nailed him to a cross, and hung him in the center of Mountain and Sea City, the most populous area on the Mountain and Sea continent. This act was undoubtedly a naked provocation against Zunji Immortal Emperor. Especially those in the same auction business gloated. They knew that Chen Qiwan's actions this time were tacitly approved by Zunji Immortal Emperor. If you did this, Zunji Immortal Emperor would never let it go. Although you and Flying Peng Immortal Emperor are sworn brothers, how much is brotherhood worth? Would Flying Peng Immortal Emperor fight to the death with a heavenly emperor for you, an Earth Emperor? Not long after, Zunji Immortal Emperor arrived furiously to demand an explanation. Flying Peng Immortal Emperor also descended, advising him to prioritize peace. Zunji Immortal Emperor sneered, he, a mere Earth Emperor, crippled and humiliated my disciple over a minor matter. This is a slap in my face. If I don't punish him, will there still be any sense of hierarchy in this Golden Hall Immortal Court? Flying Peng Immortal Emperor remained silent, clearly also believing that you had indeed gone too far this time. However, he still chose to stand by you, not yielding an inch. Zunji Immortal Emperor laughed in extreme anger. Good, 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 you think you can protect him, do you? Ganji, come out. Among the 3 heavenly emperors, the last heavenly emperor, Ganji Immortal Emperor also appeared on the scene. Such a tense standoff between the 3 heavenly emperors had never occurred in the Golden Hall Immortal Court. As the news spread, more and more people gathered to watch. You even subtly sensed that something was amiss. The other party was clearly prepared. However, the news of your continuous breakthrough had not been spread. At this moment, in the eyes of the Golden Hall Immortal Court's populace, you were still just a 5th realm Immortal Emperor. For the other party to deal with you, there was no need for such a grand display. Could it be that they weren't targeting you, but someone else? You turned your gaze to Fei Peng. Aside from this Immortal Court's #1 god of war, you couldn't think of anyone else. You didn't know what Zunji and Ganji's schemes were. But since they dared to involve you, you would certainly make them suffer the consequences. Ganji Immortal Emperor extended a hand and said to Fei Peng, by someone's request, please. Fei Peng said to you, brother, hold on for a bit. I'll come save you after I defeat this old scoundrel. His combat power ranked first among the 3 heavenly emperors, so he naturally had this confidence. He was just worried that you might not be able to hold out for long against Zunji. Just as he and Ganji Immortal Emperor had exchanged only a few blows, screams came from below. Fei Peng secretly thought, this is bad, and looked down, only to see you mercilessly pummeling Zunji Immortal Emperor. Zunji Immortal Emperor was furious. He was a 6th realm Immortal Emperor, how could he possibly lose to you, a 5th realm Earth Emperor? In front of everyone, did he still have any face left? Unfortunately, no matter what strength he unleashed, your strength was always a notch higher than his, you always kept pummeling him. At this moment, someone, seeing the unfavorable situation, had already gone to report to the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. When the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor heard that Zunji and you were fighting, he immediately issued a decree without hesitation, ordering both of you to face the wall for 1,000 years. By doing so, he was actually favoring Zunji. After all, in a fight between a heavenly emperor and an Earth Emperor, the Earth Emperor would surely be at a disadvantage. And his punishment being of the same severity naturally showed favoritism. There was nothing he could do. After all, Zunji Immortal Emperor was an old subordinate who had followed him for over 100 billion years. Unexpectedly, the messenger trembled and said, it's not a fight, Zunji Immortal Emperor is being beaten by Chongsheng Earth Emperor. The Golden Hall Immortal Emperor was greatly shocked and personally came forward. By the time he arrived, you had already severed Zunji Immortal Emperor's arms and lower legs, causing him to bleed across the sky, his eyes splitting with rage. Stop, don't fight anymore. Seeing this, the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor quickly intervened. If you didn't stop, you would almost cause his old subordinate's Dao heart to collapse. 483. Feipeng is the Emperor Star. Shaoshu Immortal King's Fear, the crisis from the Immortal Lord. You saw the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor arrive, with the half-crippled Zunji Heavenly Emperor pinned under his foot, and you complained, Zunji Heavenly Emperor bullied the weak. I ask your majesty to mete out justice. Everyone on the field looked at you with strange eyes. You had already beaten him to such a state, how else could he be punished? The Golden Hall Immortal Emperor's expression was not good. He said that after he understood the full story, he would punish all of you who engaged in private combat. Then, he told Zunji Heavenly Emperor to go and heal his injuries. Afterward, you became famous in one battle, shaking the Golden Hall Immortal Court and even the entire Might Virtue Heaven. After all, a Sixth Realm Immortal Emperor was a rare master, and even in Might Virtue Heaven, there were no more than a handful of them. Moreover, you brutally beat Zunji Heavenly Emperor, an old Sixth Realm Immortal Emperor. Many people speculated that your true strength was probably not far from a Seventh Realm Immortal Emperor. After everyone dispersed, you stayed behind to drink with Feipeng Immortal Emperor. This time, when Zunji Heavenly Emperor came to demand an explanation, he firmly stood by your side. This brotherhood was not formed in vain. However, you also voiced your suspicion, believing they were targeting Feipeng. Feipeng, however, dismissed it, saying that over the years, there had been quite a bit of open and covert struggle between the three of them. Ganji and Zunji rarely gained an advantage over him. Now with you, his brother, helping him, those two would be even less able to stir up any trouble in the future. You asked, what if all of this was supported by the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor from behind? What should he do then? Feipeng's expression froze, and he said awkwardly, the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor is fair in his dealings, and I have achieved great military merits for the Golden Hall Immortal Court, so it's unlikely he would target me. You said, one must always be on guard against others, and did not dwell on the matter any further. After the banquet, you even specifically searched Chen Qiwan's divine soul and found that he was simply jealous and looking for trouble, with no other information. Could it be that you were overthinking things? In any case, you had completely offended Zunji Heavenly Emperor, and he would definitely come looking for trouble once he recovered from his injuries. So you used the Hewa Sheng Ren Fa to infiltrate him without scruples, monitoring his every move. After a month of this, you indeed found a clue. He once mentioned to his eldest disciple that Feipeng Immortal Emperor was suspected to be an unawakened Emperor Star. Ah, Feipeng is also an Emperor Star. You couldn't help but be surprised. But, whether he is or not, he is your brother. Given your character, it is impossible for you to sacrifice him. Unless he betrays you. Otherwise, he will always be your brother. Time flew by, and another half a year passed in the blink of an eye. The other selves you had devoured reached 200. The power of 200 quasi-immortal emperors had limited enhancement on your strength. But it greatly strengthened your true spirit. The true spirit is the origin of the divine soul. The origin of the divine soul, in turn, is related to comprehension ability, the essence of the divine soul, and so on. This is also the reason why immortal emperors constantly devour other selves at the immortal emperor realm. Without strengthening comprehension ability and the essence of the divine soul, an immortal emperor might not be able to make any breakthrough for billions of years. And you raised every other self you devoured to the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Devouring one such other self is more effective than other immortal emperors devouring tens of thousands of other selves. If all other selves were devoured, the complete innate spirit formed would also be many times stronger than others. Only a complete innate spirit is qualified to control Tao principles. The stronger the innate spirit, the higher the upper limit of Tao principles that can be controlled, and your strength after breaking through to Immortal Venerable will also far exceed that of an ordinary Immortal Venerable. At the same time, in the seventh heaven's white jade capital, a young man, exuding ethereal immortal chi, arrived at the Jade Universe Tower. This person was none other than Jade Universe Celestial Venerable's youngest disciple, the most dazzling Emperor Star of White Jade Capital, Bai Xing Shaoshu Immortal King. He was among the earliest batch of rebirth emperor stars, having undergone rebirth for 1,000 years. Originally, he only wanted to rely on his own efforts to break through to Immortal Emperor. But for some unknown reason, in this life, sensing his other selves was extremely difficult. This led to his cultivation speed being extremely slow. He initially estimated he could break through to Immortal Emperor in 300 years, but at the current pace, it might take 3,000 years. Aside from his cultivation speed, the strongest devil star also appeared 10,000 years earlier than in his previous life. A great change was imminent. After much thought, he finally decided to ask his master for help to break through to Immortal Emperor earlier. Xiao Shu's idea quickly received Jade Universe Celestial Venerable's support. Although rushing things would affect his foundation. But he knew that his disciple was a rebirth person, and in his previous life, he had cultivated to the half-step Immortal Exalted Realm. The impact on his foundation would be extremely limited. This was not something Xiao Shu actively told him. An Immortal Venerable can observe the past and future, and Emperor stars have the characteristic of rebirth, so they cannot hide from an Immortal Venerable. Of course, now, as the epic calamity approaches and the heavenly secrets are chaotic, the future is full of uncertainty, and it is becoming increasingly difficult for an Immortal Venerable to see the future. With Jade Universe Celestial Venerable's help, Xiao Shu Immortal King's ability to sense his other selves rapidly grew. In just a few breaths, it covered most of the Chaos Realm. How is this possible? The wider the sensing range, the paler Xiao Shu Immortal King's face became. In his previous life, he had devoured all of his other selves. He remembered having over 170 million of his other selves. In the Chaos Realm, why were there only a few dozen unnotified other selves left? And they were all in remote locations, all mortals. It seemed as if someone had specifically left them for him. A chill ran down Xiao Shu Immortal King's spine, straight to his head. His first reaction was that an Emperor star was deliberately targeting him. After all, in his previous life, he had devoured 7 or 8 Emperor stars and was one of the hottest candidates to contend for the epic child. Even if he ultimately failed and perished, his rebirth still made him a great enemy to other Emperor stars. It seemed reasonable for other Emperor stars to target him, didn't it? One must know that he was not the only Emperor star with an Immortal Venerable background. Several Emperor stars had strong support from Immortal Venerables. Involving an Immortal Venerable was definitely not something he could resolve at his current realm. Xiao Shu Immortal King told his master about the situation and his suspicions after sensing. Jade Universe Celestial Venerable frowned and began to make calculations. After a while, he stopped his movements. Xiao Shu Immortal King quickly asked, "Master, have you found anything?" Jade Universe Celestial Venerable shook his head and said, "There is very strong interference from heavenly secrets, either from an innate supreme treasure or from other Immortal Venerables." Xiao Shu Immortal King was startled. Jade Universe was not an ordinary Immortal Venerable. He was an innate heavenly god born at the time of creation. When he was born, the current Immortal Tao system did not yet exist. The current 6th realm of Immortal Emperor, the Jade Capital Realm, was created by him. Jade Universe Celestial Venerable said, "No matter. You first enlighten these other selves. I will go and find a few friends to help, and we will surely get to the bottom of this." 484. Turning against each other, making a big fuss in the Jink Immortal Court. Dodgy. Scare yourself. Open black lens bracket. After Xiao Shu Immortal King enlightened the remaining dozens of his Tao bodies, your main body quickly sensed it. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. These Tao bodies were intentionally left by you to confuse Xiao Shu Immortal King, and they were all under your surveillance. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With Xiao Shu Immortal King's strength, it would be impossible for him to enlighten all of his Tao bodies instantly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. There are only 2 possibilities for him to achieve this. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Either he devoured the star fate of other Emperor stars, causing his cultivation to skyrocket. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Or an Immortal Venerable took action and lent him a hand. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Regardless of the former or the latter, he would quickly detect the anomaly and thus discover your existence. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This is not good news for you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Currently, you only possess the strength of the Immortal Emperor 7th Heaven, which is far from an Immortal Venerable. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You originally wanted to stall for a few hundred years, but now you have no choice. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Chongsheng world where your main body is located immediately cut ties with the reincarnation heavenly palace and hid in a deeper dimension of the immortal domain. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Since you are about to be exposed, you can only hope for the heavenly secret protection of the Hongmeng Dao Palace and the Doomsday Altar. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As long as your main body achieves a breakthrough to Immortal Emperor, your situation might improve significantly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Regarding Su Daji, you originally planned to act after achieving a breakthrough to Immortal Emperor. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Now, you can't worry about that much. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Every bit of strength you can add counts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your other two Dao bodies are busy finalizing matters for the reincarnation heavenly palace. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With so many brothers, you can't just abandon them. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Especially the more than 170 million Dao bodies, they are of utmost importance. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Therefore, you sent your Dao body in might virtue heaven to handle this matter. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Just as your Dao body in might virtue heaven was about to depart. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Golden Hall Immortal Emperor suddenly summoned you. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The three heavenly emperors and other important ministers were also present. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Among them, Immortal Emperor Ganji's expression was normal, while Zunji Heavenly Emperor had a cold sneer on his face. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Fei Peng, on the other hand, looked worried. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. This time, Golden Hall Immortal Emperor summoned everyone specifically to deal with the matter of you severely injuring Zunji Heavenly Emperor. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Golden Hall Immortal Emperor's first words were, Chongsheng Earth Emperor, do you admit your guilt? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You asked in confusion, what crime have I committed, your subject? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Golden Hall Immortal Emperor said solemnly, you abused your power against Zunji's disciple, that is crime 1. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When Zunji came to demand an explanation, you instead severely injured him, that is crime 2. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You are the Earth Emperor, he is the Heavenly Emperor, your action against him is insubordination, that is crime 3. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. With witnesses for all 3 crimes, I sentence you to guard the immortal ancient battlefield for 10,000 years. Do you accept this? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Flying Peng Immortal Emperor stepped forward, wanting to say something, but was stopped by Golden Hall Immortal Emperor's sharp gaze. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. He ultimately sighed and said nothing more. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Only 10,000 years, for an immortal emperor, is not too long. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. It was just that Zunji Heavenly Emperor's second disciple provoked first, yet received no punishment, which made him a bit indignant. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. From Golden Hall Immortal Emperor's performance, it was clear he was determined to protect Zunji. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. After all, he was an old subordinate, and he couldn't let him feel disheartened. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. And you had only been in the Golden Hall Immortal Court for 2 or 3 years. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. To the people of the Immortal Court, you were just an outsider. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Most people were happy to see you punished. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You smiled. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. According to Crown Prince Kaiyuan's memory, a demonic disaster would soon erupt in the immortal ancient battlefield. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Crown Prince Kaiyuan was severely injured in the demonic disaster while going to support, which gave Celestial Emperor Jontian an opportunity. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You absolutely cannot go to that place. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Now there is also a crisis from Xiao Shu Immortal King, making it even more impossible for you to go. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You said to Golden Hall Immortal Emperor, Immortal Emperor, your judgment is unfair. I cannot obey. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The immortal officials in the court were greatly shocked, and some even cried out, Chongsheng Earth Emperor, are you defying the imperial decree? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although your strength is formidable, the Golden Hall Immortal Court is not for you to act recklessly. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Before he finished speaking, you struck that person into ashes with a single palm. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Presumptuous. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Golden Hall Immortal Emperor shattered his dragon throne with a palm, stood up with a surge, and looked at you with an ashen face. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Your actions clearly showed that you didn't regard him, the Lord of the Immortal Court, at all. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Zunji Heavenly Emperor secretly rejoiced in his heart, stepped forward, and reprimanded, Chongsheng Immortal Emperor, what do you want to do? Do you want to rebel? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You old dog, jumping up and down, since you are tired of living, I will grant your wish. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You took out the battle heaven axe and swung it. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. No. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Zunji Heavenly Emperor let out a tragic scream, instantly exploded, and turned into a blood mist. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. His body was completely crushed, his form and spirit annihilated, and even if he were to revive, it would be hundreds of years later. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. That was a sixth heaven Immortal Emperor, how could he not even withstand a single blow? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The immortals in the court were all shocked to see this scene, their hair stood on end, and monstrous waves surged in their hearts. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Such world-shaking combat power was definitely not weaker than Golden Hall Immortal Emperors. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Very good, is this the confidence you have to defy me? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Golden Hall Immortal Emperor's face was extremely grim, and 5 or 6 top innate spirit treasures emerged from his body. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Also, terrifying dragon chi surged towards him, raising his aura indefinitely. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The Golden Hall Immortal Court is his home ground, even a 7th heaven Immortal Emperor would find it difficult to gain an advantage against him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Unless you summon your other Tao bodies, it would be difficult to defeat him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. However, you never intended to fight him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You took out the immortal slaying sword formation and trapped him. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Then, you swung an axe towards the evil soul continent, a million miles away. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. The immortals' faces drastically changed. You actually want to release that monster, evil sword immortal? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You didn't actually intend to do that. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Since Golden Hall Immortal Emperor was being aggressive, don't blame you for being merciless. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Fei Peng and Ganji wanted to stop the axe light, but with their combined strength, it was futile. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Ha ha ha. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. When Golden Hall Immortal Emperor broke through the immortal slaying sword formation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. An arrogant and domineering bald, black-robed figure, accompanied by a large cloud of black mist, shot up from the evil soul continent into the sky. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Kid, you made the right choice. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Evil sword immortal looked at you with considerable appreciation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. I'll leave this place to you, I'll take my leave first. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You vented your anger, now it's time to complete your main body's mission. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. As for how much damage evil sword immortal can inflict upon the Golden Hall Immortal Court, that depends on his own abilities. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You cleaved the Golden Hall Treasure Palace in half with an axe and strode away. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Below you, it was already a living hell. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. You quickly broke through the dimensional barrier and entered the 7th heaven. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket Su Daji resided in Xuanyuan ancient tomb, but she had to go to Nuwa Palace every month to worship the statue of goddess Nuwa. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Although she was a rebirth, her current strength was too weak, so she still had to cling tightly to this powerful backing. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. At this moment, she had just finished burning incense and was on her way back. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. For some reason, she had been feeling uneasy these past few days. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. But this was the Great Desolation territory, and with goddess Nuwa's protection, who would dare to attack her? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind arose. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Su Daji was startled, looked back, and saw no one. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. She breathed a sigh of relief and continued walking back, comforting herself. Just scaring myself. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Ah, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Just then, a dark shadow darted out from beside her. Su Daji screamed and lost consciousness. Close black lens bracket. 485. The fourth sacrifice, Yaoqi Jade Mother. The simulation is over, the strength has increased greatly. When Su Daji woke up, she found herself in a huge, gray-black doomsday altar. Isn't this the doomsday altar? Su Daji was on the verge of tears. I finally got rebirth, so why am I in the doomsday altar so quickly? What about her King Zhou of Shang brother? She had even sworn that in this life, she would help King Zhou of Shang eliminate traitors and reclaim everything. She turned her head and saw a white-clothed youth smiling at her from outside the altar. She pleaded, "Please let me go, okay?" The white-clothed youth smiled and said, "No." Immediately after, the doomsday altar erupted with a fierce light, and Su Daji was annihilated in a scream. Another grand and mighty power descended. This time, you still chose cultivation. With the help of this mighty power, you began to rapidly devour the cultivated quasi-immortal emperor other selves. Previously, it took more than 20 days to achieve fusion with one, but now it only takes a single breath. 300, 400, 500. Soon, you had devoured all the quasi-immortal emperor other selves. Adding the 200 other selves previously integrated, the number of other selves you had integrated reached 999. This is the maximum number that can be integrated below the Immortal Emperor realm. Your true spirit suddenly grew a significant amount. At this point, about 1/5 of the power feedback from the altar remained. You then integrated it into the Myriad Law's Divine Rule. After your Myriad Law's Divine Rule digested this power, it was greatly enhanced. Next, there is no longer any bottleneck on the Immortal Emperor path for you. You can enter seclusion to achieve breakthrough at any time. The first realm of the Immortal Emperor is the Heavenly Gate realm. It requires using the power of Divine Law to forge a Heavenly Gate within the Sea of Consciousness. This Heavenly Gate is different from the Gate of Myriad Wonders. The Gate of Myriad Wonders leads to the River of Time. However, this Heavenly Gate is the Southern Heavenly Gate, and it leads into the Ancestral Court. The Immortal Emperor has 7 realms: Heavenly Gate, Immortal Bridge, Yaoqi, Heavenly Sea, Divine Platform, Jade Capital, and Lingxiao. Combined, they form the Ancestral Court. The entire cultivation process of an Immortal Emperor is a step-by-step process of perfecting the Ancestral Court. Devouring the true spirit of other selves can enhance comprehension ability and the essence of the Divine Soul, accelerating cultivation progress. The strength of the Divine Law, in turn, determines the strength of the Ancestral Court that is condensed. If you had ample time, you would indeed want to further enhance the strength of your Divine Law. However, the threat of the Immortal Venerable was like a thorn in your throat, forcing you to proceed with the condensation immediately. Among them, the Heavenly Gate is primarily for combat. It can greatly enhance strength. It is what you urgently need right now. You estimate that you will be able to condense a complete Heavenly Gate and then achieve breakthrough to Immortal Emperor in about 3 years. You think you should be able to endure for 3 years, right? On the other side, Jade Universe Celestial Venerable had already found his 2 good friends, 9 Lives Immortal and Yaoqi Jade Mother, to help him deduce the mastermind behind the abduction of Xiaoshu Immortal King's other self. With the combined efforts of the 3 Immortal Venerable, even the heavenly secret concealment power of the Hongmengdao Palace could not withstand it and was quickly broken. But even after breaking that layer, you still had the protection of the Doomsday Altar. Afterward, they saw the monstrous world-destroying power. Your doomsday altar had already integrated 2 altars, one after another. The world-destroying power within it was astonishing. With the knowledge of the 3 immortal Venerable, they could tell at a glance that this definitely belonged to the strongest Devil Star. The strongest Devil Star actually targeted Xiaoshu Immortal King. Jade Universe Celestial Venerable felt somewhat fortunate, glad that they discovered it in time, otherwise, his beloved disciple would have died without even knowing how. As it involved the strongest Devil Star, the 3 immortal Venerable were also unable to deduce his location. However, this did not stump the immortal Venerable. The divine ability of an immortal Venerable is vast, far beyond ordinary imagination. They could completely conduct a carpet search of the entire Chaos Realm in a short period of time. No matter how the Demon Star escaped, could he escape beyond the realm. However, after learning that it was the strongest Devil Star, 9 Lives Immortal was unwilling to continue participating. Because there was great karma involved. The opponent, being the strongest Devil Star, must have extraordinary qualities. If they failed to kill him and allowed him to grow, then it would be their misfortune. Jade Universe Celestial Venerable understood 9 Lives Immortal's concerns and did not try to persuade him to stay. Yaoqi Jade Mother, however, stayed. Because among her disciples, there was also an Emperor Star. Which meant an endless feud with the Demon Star. Jade Universe Celestial Venerable and Yaoqi Jade Mother began to search the realm world inch by inch. The first place they searched, naturally, was the Immortal Realm. Every area they searched, all past and future time and space of that place were under their gaze. Possessing the great Luo cave site art, you were extremely sensitive to danger. You had already fled early to a lower realm outside the Immortal Realm. Even if you ran the fastest, you could not keep up with the Immortal Venerable's search speed. Half a month later, Yaoqi Jade Mother found you. When she saw that you only had the realm of a quasi-immortal emperor but possessed the strength of an immortal emperor's 7th realm, she was greatly astonished. This karma was too great, she couldn't bear it alone. She called Jade Universe Celestial Venerable, and together they completely annihilated you. You died. When the simulated information stopped flashing, Lu Chengsheng finally realized that this time he had truly died. This was the longest simulation in history. And in the end, he died at the hands of an immortal Venerable. Immortal Venerable were already the top powerhouses in the Chaos Realm. To be killed by them, it was a death without regrets. What a load of nonsense. Lu Chengsheng would definitely avenge this grudge. They had already incurred karma, and they still wanted to run. However, Lu Chengsheng was more curious about whether the other selves he had integrated in the simulator could be integrated again. Also, could the 4 Emperor Stars who had already been sacrificed, Han Qing, Yuan Yan, Crown Prince Kaiyuan, and Su Daji, be sacrificed again in the simulator? If so, it would undoubtedly allow him to exploit the simulator again. Just like the heavenly tribulation in the Little Yuan realm back then. Simulation ended, you can retain one of the following items. 1. Cultivation Realm at 367 years old. 2. Cultivation Experience at 367 years old. I choose 1. As Lu Chengsheng made his choice, the aura around him began to surge dramatically. Supreme Immortal Peak, Immortal Lord 1st Stage, Immortal Lord 9th Stage, Ordinary Immortal King, Emperor Light Immortal King. It only stopped when it reached the quasi-immortal Emperor realm. Of course, realm is realm, and strength is strength. Lu Chengsheng's strength far exceeded his realm, he was almost unrivaled below the Immortal Venerable. Especially the Hongmeng Dao Palace within Lu Chengsheng's body. It also returned with his cultivation. He was now also someone who possessed an innate supreme treasure. After this simulation, in the entire Chaos Realm, only Immortal Venerable magnates could suppress Lu Chengsheng. For the next simulation, he didn't know who would suppress whom. Detected that the host's realm has advanced to a new level. Simulator currency has changed to immortal crystals. 1 immortal crystal can be exchanged for 1 unit of currency. 1 simulation requires 1 billion units of currency. Insufficient balance, please recharge immediately. 486. Settle the grudges, plunder Mozangtian. New simulation, see Chilean Immortal Emperor again. 1 billion immortal crystals. Lu Chengsheng raised an eyebrow. Immortal crystals could be condensed by an immortal lord. For the current Lu Chengsheng, he could easily condense billions of immortal crystals in a single day. 1 billion immortal crystals were just a drop in the bucket for Lu Chengsheng. However, what he condensed himself was never as satisfying as what he snatched. It was also time to settle the score with the Sin Blood Division. With a thought from Lu Changsheng, the sky above the Sin Blood Division in Yuanjing Heaven immediately shattered. A colossal golden palm descended from the heavens, covering everything, like a golden divine mountain pressing down. What is this? Many people in the Sin Blood Division screamed in terror, as if the end of the world had arrived. Even Shu Tuo, who had been a supreme immortal for many years, felt his hair stand on end, unable to resist in the slightest. Boom! Everyone in the Sin Blood Division exploded, turning into a bloody mist. Lu Changsheng didn't even spare a glance for these ants. The Sin prison suppressed below, under this immense power, shattered into pieces, instantly disintegrating. Ha 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 ha, we actually escaped. A large number of Sin blood laughed maniacally. They had thought they would be eternally trapped in the Sin prison, never expecting such sudden happiness. Da Sui, Empress Hua, and Azure Dragon Exalted Immortal were also inexplicably shocked. The Sin prison was an acquired rare item, how could it just collapse like that? Even an immortal king would find it difficult, right? Who exactly was the owner of this golden hand? No matter who it was, anyone who could rescue them was a benefactor. However, before they could recover from their joy, the remaining power of the golden hand pulverized Azure Dragon Exalted Immortal, scattering him with the wind. Da Sui and Empress Hua exchanged glances. Azure Dragon Exalted Immortal had always stayed in the Sin prison and had never offended anyone, so why was he killed? Could it be that the owner of this golden hand was someone from the Grand Mist lineage who survived from the outside world, and an old enemy of Azure Dragon Exalted Immortal? Seeing this, the other Sin blood scattered and fled in terror. This guy seemed to be attacking indiscriminately. They had just regained their new lives with great difficulty, they couldn't die like this. After wiping out the Sin Blood Division headquarters in Yuanjing Heaven, Lu Changsheng turned his gaze to the Nine Heavens Immortal Court in Mozang Heaven. Lu Changsheng simply reached out with a casual grasp from afar, and the Nine Heavens Immortal Court's treasury was seized in his hand. Facing this giant hand descending from the sky, Nine Heavens Immortal King trembled, not daring to say a word. He was, after all, an Emperor-light Immortal King, well-traveled and knowledgeable. This was definitely power that only an Immortal Emperor possessed. If he dared to resist, it would be like throwing an egg against a rock. However, Immortal Emperors usually resided above the fifth heaven. Why would an Immortal Emperor come to snatch things from the third heaven? Isn't this bullying honest people? Not long after, news came from his subordinates that Little Western Heaven had also been plundered by the mysterious Immortal Emperor. Nine Heavens Immortal King felt much better now. It seemed he wasn't the target, rather, an Immortal Emperor was just going around collecting money. Nine Heavens Immortal Court, Ducey's Palace. Lord Taishang, who was refining alchemy, looked up. The third heaven was the territory of the Great Desolation, it wasn't to be bullied by just anyone. What the mysterious Immortal Emperor did was somewhat overstepping the bounds. However, this aura was so strong that it was completely on par with his main body. With his old bones, he decided to just let it go. Anyway, for an Immortal Emperor, this was just a small sum of money, there was no need to fight over it. 1 billion immortal crystals were easily gathered by Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng began a new simulation. He was quite curious whether he could once again exploit the Emperor Star Card bug. If so, he would gain 4 more free opportunities. If he kept exploiting the bug, would the existence in the ethereal realm be completely drained by him? Recharge successful, simulation begins. At 18, you broke through to Quasi-Immortal Emperor, your true combat power comparable to a peak 7th Realm Immortal Emperor, making you one of the rare masters in the Chaos Realm. Subsequently, you plundered the Nine Heavens Immortal Court and Little Western Heaven of Mozang Heaven. In addition to various resources, the most precious were the Battle Heaven Axe, Mixed Yuan Golden Dipper, and the 24th Grade Myriad Transformation Azure Lotus, these 3 innate spirit treasures. You found the first 2 quite handy in previous simulations. The latter can be used to enhance the quality of the Merit Golden Lotus. Currently, you still have the 12th Grade World Destroying Black Lotus, 12th Grade Creation Azure Lotus, 12th Grade Pure World White Lotus, and 12th Grade Karma Red Lotus in your possession. In the previous simulation, you infused the origin of these 5 Great Lotus platforms into the Merit Golden Lotus early on, causing it to bloom into a 26th Grade Lotus platform. Now that the Hongmengdao Palace has advanced to an innate supreme treasure, it can continuously produce primal chaos origin purple chi. If you use the Primal Chaos Origin Purple Chi to upgrade all 6 of these Lotus platforms to the level of top-tier innate spirit treasures, and then integrate all their origins into the Merit Golden Lotus, could it become an innate supreme treasure? Regardless, it's worth a try. The Merit Golden Lotus possesses various beneficial effects. If it truly can become an innate supreme treasure, its impact on you might be beyond imagination. Of course, what you value most is not this, but rather, that it fits your temperament. If you step on the innate supreme treasure Merit Golden Lotus, who would dare call you a devil head? The world's slander and prejudice against you will also be significantly reduced. Afterward, your main body in the Chongsheng world entered a period of arduous cultivation. This time, you were not in a hurry to condense the heavenly gate. You planned to significantly improve the quality of the myriad laws' divine rule. You could sense that there were many divine laws in the world more powerful than the myriad laws' divine rule. If comparing strength, your myriad laws' divine rule should hover around the 100th place. This was already extremely astonishing. Divine law is a higher tier than rule. Taking time rule and time divine law as an example, it's like one is multiplication tables and the other is calculus. Both are parts of a certain domain, but the difficulty is vastly different. As for Tao principles, they are generally mastered by half-step Immortal Exalted or Immortal Venerable, and the difficulty is naturally several layers higher. Your 10,000 laws rule ranked first among rules, but after its transformation, it didn't incorporate too many new elements. To still hover around the 100th place already indicates a very deep foundation. You are not a perfectionist. But at the very least, you need to elevate the myriad laws' divine rule to the top 10. Because after breaking through to Immortal Emperor, you will directly face the pressure of the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao. Having the shadow of the 9 trials during your Immortal Lord period, you were afraid that the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao would pull some more tricks on you, so you prepared in advance. At 19, your Tao body established the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace, and successively subdued the 10 Directions Land, Yuan Jing Heaven, and Golden Hall Heaven. As for Mozang Heaven, because it involved the Great Desolation's plan to reenact Journey to the West, your Tao body temporarily did not interfere too much. In addition, you enlightened a large number of other selves for cultivation. At 20, your Tao body in Dangerous Shore Heaven successively killed 9 Palaces Immortal King, Purple Lightning Immortal Emperor, and Chongyu Celestial King, and then killed Jidu Immortal King in Might Virtue Heaven, which was considered revenge for Hongmeng Immortal King. Subsequently, you found the investiture of the gods, which had been sealed in the Ming King dimension of the World Sea. And you conveniently brought Mingshan into it, making him the first deity on the investiture of the gods. At 21, as the scale of the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace grew larger and larger, your Tao body always had a faint sense of being spied upon. Your Tao body used the eye of illusory breaking and actually discovered a familiar face, Crimson Training Immortal Emperor. 487. Immortal Lord Inheritance, Si Huang Shen again. Merit Transformation, Innate Treasure. Crimson Training Immortal Emperor once helped you during the rebirth stage trial in the last simulation. You were curious why she helped you, but it seems she has been paying attention to you for a long time. You ask her what her purpose is, and suggest she speak frankly. The Crimson Training Immortal Emperor, with blood-red hair, smiled charmingly and said she wanted to fight you. Before sacrificing Sudaji in the last simulation, your strength was already not weaker than a 7th Heaven Immortal Emperor. After the sacrifice, your strength surpassed a 7th Heaven Immortal Emperor by a large margin. Since Crimson Training Immortal Emperor wants to challenge you, you grant her wish. You initially thought you could easily defeat her. However, after hundreds of exchanges, neither of you gained the upper hand. During the fight, you discovered her aura was very peculiar. It exceeded a 7th Heaven Immortal Emperor, but had not yet reached half-step Immortal Exalted. After hundreds of exchanges, Crimson Training Immortal Emperor acknowledged your strength and said she would stop fighting. Then, she asked you to make a Tao oath not to reveal what she was about to say to outsiders before she would disclose her intentions. For a top Immortal Emperor to be so cautious, it most likely involves an Immortal Venerable. You made a Tao oath to keep the secret in front of her. Only then did she say that she discovered the legacy ground left by Tianwu Immortal Lord in a foreign land, and the difficulty of the legacy trial was terrifyingly high, so she had been searching for talented individuals to clear the challenge over the years. It's an Immortal Venerable legacy. Your heart was greatly shaken. You asked, can Immortal Venerables also die? Crimson Training Immortal Emperor replied as if it were obvious, besides Immortal Emperors who have transcended the Chaos Realm, Who dares to claim invincibility, and who dares to claim immortality? Immortal venerables also have a day of demise, it's just that the conditions for their demise are exceptionally harsh. The specific cause of Tianwu Immortal Lord's death is unknown. But he did indeed die, and Crimson Training Immortal Emperor has entered his legacy ground multiple times. Her current strength, which far surpasses a 7th Heaven Immortal Emperor, was obtained from the legacy ground. After all, it is an immortal venerable legacy, and it's false to say you aren't tempted. But you also understand that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Sure enough, Crimson Training Immortal Emperor immediately said, if you want to enter, you must make a Tao oath that all your gains in the legacy ground must be prioritized for me to choose. If you obtain the immortal venerable legacy, you must give it to me unconditionally. This condition was undoubtedly very harsh. You said that if she takes all the benefits, wouldn't you be participating in the legacy trial for nothing? Crimson Training Immortal Emperor covered her lips and smiled, saying, of course not. Even if you cannot obtain the immortal venerable legacy, you still have hope for further advancement. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult to improve. You wouldn't think that cultivating step by step would allow you to break through half-step Immortal Exalted, would you? You asked in surprise, is there some mystery in this? Crimson Training Immortal Emperor said, the current Immortal Emperor cultivation system is incomplete. Between a 7th Heaven Immortal Emperor and a half-step Immortal Exalted, there are 2 realms that have been deliberately erased. Without these 2 realms, one cannot condense a complete ancestral court. Naturally, one cannot break through half-step Immortal Exalted, let alone the Immortal Venerable realm. You smiled and said, can't I just find someone else to teach me? Crimson Training Immortal Emperor shook her head and said, you're thinking too simply. These 2 realms have been permanently erased after the ancient chaos epoch. Even an Immortal Venerable cannot impart them to their disciple, otherwise a great terror will descend. Besides becoming a Demon Star Emperor Star, the only way I currently know to acquire them is through Tianwu Immortal Lord's legacy ground. Only by going there will you have hope for further advancement. You remained silent for a moment before saying that you needed some time to consider and would contact her once you had made up your mind. Crimson Training Immortal Emperor was not surprised by this and said that once you had considered it, you could find her at Crimson Training Divine Mountain in the 7th Heaven. You watched her departing back and muttered to yourself, she dares to make me sign such an unequal treaty. It seems the Hewa Shengren Fa needs to be arranged for her. You were not anxious about the 2 missing realms that Crimson Training Immortal Emperor mentioned. You are not even an Immortal Emperor yet. You would not be easily tempted by her. However, an Immortal Venerable Legacy is an unparalleled opportunity. You definitely want to get your hands on it. The most urgent task is still to break through to Immortal Emperor first. At 22, you traveled to the barren Great World and found the Doomsday Altar in the illusory sand remains. You currently know the locations of 5 Emperor Stars, Han Qing, Yuan Yan, Crown Prince Kaiyuan, Su Daji, and Immortal King Xiao Shu. Immortal King Xiao Shu is difficult to deal with, Han Qing's strength is too low, and the benefits of sacrificing him are limited, while the other 3 have not yet awakened. In addition, there are 2 other Doomsday Altar locations. In the last simulation, the 2nd Doomsday Altar was obtained from one of your other selves' worlds. The 3rd Doomsday Altar was obtained from Celestial Emperor Jontian in the 6th Heaven. These are all treasures and cannot be missed. Speaking of treasures, there are also many in the barren Great World. One is the statue worshipped by the god of the Wilderness Clan, and the other is the Evil Mist Relic. The former can trigger a transcendent mark, with an extraordinary origin. The latter is mysterious and unpredictable. Unless it reveals itself, you, as you are now, would find it difficult to locate it. You first arrived at the god of the Wilderness Clan and saw the statue named Wild. It is said that this is a statue of a prehistoric deity. Which epoch it came from is unknown. The god of the Wilderness Old Ancestor, seeing that you wanted to seize the statue, quickly activated the power of faith, causing the statue to attack you. Your current strength is many times higher than before, and the statue's attack can hardly threaten you anymore. This is not because the statue's power is limited. On the contrary, you discovered an extremely high essence aura within the statue. If fully activated, even an Immortal Venerable would likely be injured. However, the power of faith provided by the god of the Wilderness Clan is too little compared to this aura, making it impossible to utilize its full potential. This, Wild, couldn't possibly be a prehistoric Immortal Emperor, could it? You were secretly astonished. Seeing the god of the Wilderness Old Ancestor still launching attacks, you directly annihilated the god of the wilderness clan with a single palm strike and then took the statue. At 23, the Doomsday Black Lotus, Creation Azure Lotus, Pure White Lotus, Karma Fire Red Lotus, Myriad Transformation Azure Lotus, and Merit Golden Lotus, under the 10,000 times acceleration of the Chongsheng world, absorbed a large amount of Grand Mist Origin Purple Chi and successively advanced to the 27th grade Top Innate Lotus pedestal. You extracted the origin of the former and sent it into the Merit Golden Lotus. The Merit Golden Lotus began to transform rapidly. Countless mysterious auras flowed out. Half a year later, the Merit Golden Lotus absorbed all the origin of the 5 great lotus pedestals, finally undergoing a qualitative change and growing its 28th lotus petal. It finally transformed into an innate supreme immortal treasure. 488. The effect of the treasure: suppress Wangji. The king of gods, the sensation in the immortal realm. At this moment, astonishing phenomena appeared in the Chongsheng world, with countless illusory figures of living beings chanting karma. Moreover, this phenomenon showed a strong tendency to spread throughout the entire immortal domain. You quickly put away the Merit Golden Lotus, stopping this phenomenon. Every innate supreme treasure is incredibly rare, far more precious than an innate spirit treasure. If an immortal venerable were to discover this, it would be disastrous. They would definitely snatch it away from you. You have always been the one to snatch from others. If someone were to snatch something from you, wouldn't that be a complete reversal of the natural order? Only after the karma phenomenon completely dissipated did you take out the Merit Golden Lotus again and begin to test its functions. Firstly, its various amplification abilities were incredibly astonishing. Compared to before, they had increased by at least 100-fold. Standing on the Lotus platform, you felt that even a half-step immortal exalted might not be unbeatable. Aside from combat, your comprehension ability also experienced a long-lost amplification. Ever since your basic comprehension ability reached the immortal venerable level, the various innate spirit treasures that amplified comprehension ability had significantly less effect on you. Now, you could once again experience the feeling of rapid growth. Whether it was divine law Tao principles, the fusion of Tao body, or the condensation of the ancestral court. All of them had extremely high requirements for comprehension ability. With this 28-petal Merit Golden Lotus, your cultivation speed would greatly increase. Of course, its consumption was also extremely terrifying. At the current rate that the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace provided karma, it simply couldn't keep up with its consumption rate. The Reincarnation Heavenly Palace had only been established for a few years. After a few more years, its scale would further expand, even completely conquering the entire world sea. You should then be able to use it without restraint. At 24 years old, after the Merit Golden Lotus advanced to an innate supreme treasure, your cultivation speed progressed by leaps and bounds. In just 1 year, you comprehended several divine laws ranked in the top 100. After integrating them into the myriad laws divine rule, it advanced by more than just one level. At 25 years old, the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace rapidly expanded in scale. The reincarnators exceeded 10 billion, and over 1/5 of the world's sea worlds were conquered. At 26 years old, Wangji Immortal Emperor from the 5th heaven descended, wishing to cooperate with the renowned Reincarnation Heavenly Palace. Wangji Immortal Emperor had some collusion with the Mozang Immortal Venerable from the foreign realm. You hadn't sought him out all these years, but you didn't expect him to come knocking on your door. Since that was the case, you weren't going to be polite. You created a formation that confused the divine soul and lured him into it. As soon as Wangji Immortal Emperor stepped in, he lost consciousness and was suppressed by you. Subsequently, your Tao body disguised itself as Wangji Immortal Emperor and entered the divine machine hall of the 5th heaven to establish the Ruyi Immortal Alliance. Under your coercion and inducements, the Ruyi Immortal Alliance was quickly formed. Then, you began to widely propagate the Hewa Sheng Ren Fa, making it a mandatory cultivation technique for the Immortal Alliance. Anyone who resisted was personally annihilated by you. Everyone secretly cursed Wangji Immortal Emperor for his tyranny and ruthlessness, while being forced to cultivate. Everyone could bear witness that these were all done by Wangji Immortal Emperor, and had nothing to do with you. The Hewa Sheng Ren Fa quickly became popular in Ruyi Heaven. However, you did not let Yuan Yan, who was still a child, cultivate it. He had not yet undergone Star Fate Awakening at this time, and you feared it would affect him. Of course, besides Yuan Yan, Crown Prince Kaiyuan and Su Daji were also under your surveillance. As soon as someone awakened, you would immediately discover it. After all, these were all Emperor stars, the future hope of the Chaos Realm. As a member of the Chaos Realm, you had an obligation to protect them from being sacrificed by the Demon Star. As for you, although you possessed the Doomsday Altar, constantly doing good deeds and accumulating karma certainly didn't make you a Demon Star. At 27 years old, you comprehended more than a dozen more divine laws in the top 100, and after integrating them into the Myriad Laws Divine Rule, your Myriad Laws Divine Rule improved again. Among thousands of divine laws, it could at least rank in the top 50. At this time, there was already a massive supply of karma, allowing you to continuously use the 28-petal merit Golden Lotus, further accelerating your cultivation speed. At 29 years old, you completely conquered Ruyi Heaven. At 30 years old, the reincarnators of the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace exceeded 100 billion, occupying more than half of the world's sea worlds. Among your Tao body, there were also over 100 immortal kings. However, cultivating 990 quasi-immortal emperors was still not something that could be achieved in a short time. It would probably still require the investiture of the gods. At 35 years old, the Reincarnation Heavenly Palace completely conquered all world sea worlds. Large amounts of karma and power of faith flowed in daily. At the same time, the journey to the west began to reenact in Mozang Heaven. Great Sage equal to Heaven's Son Wukong caused a great disturbance in the Heavenly Palace, and was ultimately suppressed by the Western Paradise Buddha under the Five Fingers Mountain. The Great Sage equal to Heaven was the reincarnation of the Great Sage equal to Heaven from the primordial domain. In the previous simulation, you rescued him early, which ultimately led to the Western journey plan being significantly advanced. This time, you were not in a hurry, because it wouldn't be long before Mozang Heaven would also be yours. At 40 years old, the Myriad Laws Divine Rule had integrated dozens of divine laws ranked in the top 100, reaching the top 10. You had originally estimated that it would take at least 100 years to achieve this. With the 28-petal merit Golden Lotus, this speed was greatly accelerated. Since you had already reached this point, you might as well create a king of divine laws. Because the ancestral court was condensed from the power of divine law. The stronger the divine law, the stronger the ancestral court, and the greater the increase in strength. At 72 years old, you integrated all the top 10 divine laws into the Myriad Laws Divine Rule. Your Myriad Laws Divine Rule instantly became the new king of divine laws. Afterward, rays of light showered down, and various world-shaking phenomena appeared in the major dimensions of the immortal domain. Many immortal kings and immortal emperors were shocked by this. All the divine laws ranked in the top 100 were innate divine laws. Not to mention the king of divine laws, which ranked first. Such a terrifying existence could actually be cultivated by an acquired being. Previously, the emergence of a new king of rules on the immortal ranking of Golden Hall Heaven was enough to shock the current epoch. Now, even a king of divine laws had emerged. In previous epochs, at most, only new kings of rules had appeared. This situation had never happened before. Some people exclaimed that this was an impossible miracle of all ages. Many immortal venerables were also alarmed. Divine laws were part of the great Tao of the realm, and they could not deduce its master through the divine laws. However, they could search for them inch by inch across the various great worlds. Now it was almost the end of the epoch. Such a thing suddenly happened. They had to distinguish between friend and foe. A series of majestic auras echoed in the immortal domain void realm, making your heart pound. You had only comprehended the king of divine laws, and you didn't expect to cause such a huge commotion. Were you going to die young again? Just as you were worried, a burst of aura suddenly erupted from the 9 heavens, shaking the realm and astonishing the current epoch. 489. The secret of the 9 heavens, break through the Immortal Emperor. The malice of the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm. Subsequently, immortal venerable magnates, as if receiving a command, ceased their search activities in unison and returned to their respective territories. Seeing this, you finally breathed a sigh of relief. The 9th heavens can be said to be the most mysterious place in the entire immortal domain. No information from that place is ever leaked. Except for immortal venerables, no one knows what kind of place it is. Nor does anyone know what forces reside there. Its mysteriousness can be compared to the Tao Ruins realm, which severs the river of time. In any case, your life was saved. You are not only greatly virtuous and benevolent, but also a grateful person. If there's an opportunity in the future, you should repay this kindness. Afterward, you began sharpening your blade, targeting your other selves. Before reaching the Immortal Emperor realm, one can only achieve fusion with 999 other selves. This is a 10,000 laws rule. However, your previous consumption was within a simulation. The last simulation shouldn't affect this one, right? You used the investiture of the gods, which had advanced to a top-tier innate spirit treasure, to seal a quasi-immortal emperor other self, and then began consuming it. You discovered that you could indeed consume it again. This was like finding a bug. Others can only consume 999, but as long as you keep simulating, you can keep consuming. To be precise, as long as the number of your other selves in reality doesn't decrease, you can repeatedly consume them in simulations. If this continues, a complete innate spirit might be quite terrifying. Innate spirits were born before the creation of heaven and earth. Most innate spirits died in the tribulation of creation, shattering into numerous true spirits of later generations. A small number of lucky or powerful ones survived, becoming ancient innate heavenly gods. It is said that some immortal venerables are innate heavenly gods. They are born with great power. If you repeatedly consume your other selves, you wonder if you can become an innate heavenly god. At 73 years old, after condensing the King of Divine Laws, your strength further improved, estimated to be no less than a 9-realm Immortal Emperor as mentioned by Crimson Training Immortal Emperor. Your speed of fusion with your other selves was therefore terrifyingly fast. In just 1 year, you achieved fusion with nearly 300 quasi-immortal Emperor other selves. Now, the accumulation speed of power of faith cannot keep up with your consumption speed. At 74 years old, you once again enlightened over 100 quasi-immortal Emperor other selves. You consumed all of them in just half a year. You didn't idle during the remaining time, using it to deduce the Hua Sheng Ren Fa. You strove to deduce it to the Immortal Venerable level as soon as possible. At 78 years old, you consumed 999 quasi-immortal Emperor other selves, and your true spirit grew considerably again. You had pushed both your other selves and divine laws to the extreme. Next, you began to formally use the power of divine laws to condense the heavenly gate. At 79 years old, a phantom of the heavenly gate appeared in your sea of consciousness. Because the 10,000 laws rule is the king of divine laws, even if it was just a phantom, it was more powerful than the complete heavenly gates of many immortal emperors. At 80 years old, your heavenly gate phantom solidified by 30%. At 85 years old, your heavenly gate looked incredibly real. At 88 years old, your heavenly gate was completely condensed. It was an ancient, towering immortal gate. It stood high, shrouded in immortal mist, exuding a powerful, mysterious, and immortal aura. At the very top of the immortal gate, the words, South Heavenly Gate, were carved. You successfully broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm, and your strength surged. However, the moment the immortal gate formed, you appeared in the vast void realm, in an unknown location, yet able to see the entire immortal domain. Before you could even take a closer look, you were suddenly suppressed by an ancient and immortal aura. You didn't see anyone, but you knew who it was. This was the immortal domain Heavenly Tao. Formless and intangible, unapproachable and imperceptible. Everyone who breaks through to the Immortal Emperor realm must come here to face its test. Normally, one only needs to withstand its aura for 3 breaths. But the immortal domain Heavenly Tao before you wasn't just letting you feel the pressure of its aura, it was actively suppressing you. Submit to me, otherwise, eternal damnation. The immortal domain Heavenly Tao transmitted a vague will. Then a Heavenly Tao contract appeared before you. If you signed it, you would be permanently subservient to the immortal domain Heavenly Tao. Even someone surnamed Li wouldn't dare to sign this thing, right? I'll freaking kill you. A 28th grade merit golden lotus appeared beneath your feet, the mixed yuan golden dipper appeared before your chest, and 8 top-tier immortal swords appeared around you. Your aura surged layer upon layer. The 8 immortal swords, with their crisscrossing sword light, annihilated everything. You suddenly broke free from the immortal domain Heavenly Tao's restraint and returned to the Chongsheng world. Your eyes were gloomy, you hadn't expected the immortal domain Heavenly Tao to pull such a stunt on you. As the Heavenly Tao will, shouldn't it be impartial and selfless? Why did it want to take you as its servant? The immortal domain is indeed formidable. It contains countless dimensions, and the Chaos Realm has countless planes, totaling 10 do, of which it occupies 5. Even the status of an immortal venerable is inferior to it. But it wants to subdue you. It is still seeking death. Anyway, the immortal domain Heavenly Tao made the first move this time, So it can't blame you for being ruthless later. You didn't want to cause chaos in the immortal domain, but someone always forced your hand. Each ancestral court building condensed at each realm of the Immortal Emperor has its own unique uses. Among them, the Heavenly Gate primarily focuses on combat, providing the greatest increase in strength. This breakthrough undoubtedly greatly increased your strength. Although you haven't fought against a half-step Immortal Exalted yet, a half-step Immortal Exalted should also be unable to do anything to you. Being able to break free from the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao's suppression just now was the best example. Of course, that was not the full power of the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao. It must constantly maintain the operation of the entire Immortal Domain. What it displayed just now was, at most, a negligible trace of its power. Even so, it proved your formidable nature. After all, that was the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao. Below the Immortal Venerable, all are like ants to it. Only Immortal Venerables are slightly larger fish, with a bit of power to resist. Although your strength increased significantly, the threat from Xiaoshu Immortal King still hasn't been resolved, and you may have to face threats from the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao in the future. You still need to continue to rapidly increase your strength. Among the 4 Emperor stars you were monitoring, it seemed only Su Daji and Han Qing had awakened. Well, then, Su Daji it is. In the last simulation, she was the last one sacrificed. This time, she'll be the first. Perhaps, this is called favoritism. Soon, you captured Su Daji. However, you didn't immediately begin the sacrifice. Instead, you first merged the 2 Doomsday Altars in your hand into one. Once the Doomsday Altars undergo fusion, the heavenly secrets change, and a strongest Devil Star prompt will appear. Therefore, you waited until now to allow them to merge. 490. The doubts of the conferred God, the 7 Emperor Stars. Successive sacrifices break through the 2nd realm of the Immortal Emperor. Additionally, there is a Doomsday Altar in one of your other selves' worlds. Previously, you only enlightened a few of your other selves for focused cultivation. Now that you have broken through, you expanded your immortal sense and quickly enlightened large groups of your other selves. Half a month later, you enlightened 100 million of your other selves. You successfully found the 3rd Doomsday Altar. Only by combining all 3 will you be able to freely choose your reward after sacrificing the Emperor Star. Otherwise, if you get something you don't need, it would be a huge loss. You weren't in a hurry to enlighten the remaining tens of millions of your other selves. Anyway, with your strength, you can enlighten them at any time. It's better to keep them to confuse Xiaoshu Immortal King for now. First, cultivate these 100 million other selves. When the 3rd Doomsday Altar was also devoured, you directly threw the terrified Su Daji into it. Boom, the Majestic will descended once again. Due to the significant increase in your strength, your perception of him became even more acute. You felt that this will was even more boundless than the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao you had previously faced directly. This was an incredibly astonishing matter. The Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao is almost the most terrifying existence in the Chaos Realm. Without an Immortal Emperor, almost no one can do anything to it. This will was actually more powerful than the Immortal Domain Heavenly Tao. Could it be the Tao will that dominates the Chaos Realm? However, the Tao will is unlikely to accept sacrifices. It's even less likely to show signs of joy after accepting a sacrifice. You couldn't be sure what this mysterious existence truly was. After the sacrifice was completed, the majestic existence, as expected, allowed you to choose one from cultivation, immortal arts, and immortal artifacts. You directly chose cultivation. A large amount of myriad laws divine rule was mobilized. A phantom of an immortal bridge quickly appeared in your sea of consciousness. When the immortal bridge phantom solidified by 70%, this power slowly disappeared. Unexpectedly, a single sacrifice didn't even allow you to break through a minor realm. If you were to cultivate on your own, it would probably take about 15 years to break through. Did the sacrifice save you 10 years of arduous cultivation? Of course, this is calculated according to your own standards. What you used to condense your ancestral court was the power of the King of Divine Laws. If it weren't for your heaven-defying comprehension ability, far exceeding that of an immortal emperor, and with the aid of infinite enlightenment, merit Golden Lotus, and the ability to accelerate by 10,000 times. If it were an ordinary immortal emperor, they wouldn't even dream of breaking through in 3 to 4 billion years. So, for an ordinary immortal emperor, this saved tens of billions of years of arduous cultivation, which is still quite a good deal. Previously, you had 2 unawakened emperor stars left. And a suspected Emperor star, Fei Peng. Fei Peng is your brother, even if he is an Emperor star, you wouldn't sacrifice him. However, it seems you haven't sworn brotherhood yet this time, so he's not considered a brother. Let's count him for now. Then you still have 3 unawakened Emperor stars, plus Han Qing, making it 4. It still feels a bit insufficient. Of the 28 Emperor stars, where did the others go? Damn it, why can't they just jump out themselves? You began to examine the memories left by Su Daji, to see if there were any other Emperor star clues. In the previous simulation, you were pursued by an immortal Venerable immediately after sacrificing Su Daji. The focus was entirely on escaping, and no memories or similar things were revealed. You were quite curious if her memories contained anything you needed. You didn't know until you looked, and when you did, you were shocked. During the entire investiture of the gods process, a large number of Emperor stars appeared. Nezha, Yang Jian, GFA, Lei Junzi, Zhang Zia, Shen Gongbao. Including Su Daji, there were a total of 7. Enough to be called a gathering of stars. Especially Yang Jian and Nezha. Their figures also appeared in Mozang heaven. It's unknown whether they were clones or their main bodies. There were too many Emperor stars, and most of them awakened after the investiture of the gods began. Daji had also just awakened recently. Her main body was a 9-tailed fox demon. According to the Empress Nua's decree, after possessing the mortal woman Su Daji, she awakened as the fox moon star. Her experiences in the previous life had made her unable to distinguish whether she was a 9-tailed fox demon or Su Daji. Perhaps due to her low strength, not yet reaching Immortal King, she didn't notice too many tricks in the investiture of the gods. She only thought it was a struggle between powerful figures within the Great Desolation. In her previous life, she died by self-immolation with King Zhou of Shang near the end of the investiture of the gods. She was reborn in this life. She swore to disrupt the investiture of the gods and change King Zhou of Shang's fate. Then, she entered your doomsday altar. However, you detected an anomaly in her memories. Her memories had been tampered with, and a portion was sealed. The person who sealed her memories was very strong, at least a half-step immortal exalted. In the Great Desolation, only one person possessed such strength. That was old ancestor Hongjun. Indeed, this investiture of the gods was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. In your eyes, the entire investiture of the gods process seemed like a grand awakening ceremony prepared for the 7 Emperor stars. You unsealed Su Daji's sealed memories. You then saw that when she died in her previous life, she was not in a sea of fire, but in a doomsday altar with raging black qi. In other words, she was sacrificed to death, not self-immolated. This memory being sealed by old ancestor Hongjun definitely had something to do with him. Even his 6 disciples might have been involved. No wonder in Crown Prince Kaiyuan's memories, after the investiture of the gods ended, old ancestor Hongjun and his 6 disciples' strength surged. So that's what happened. Just like the other Emperor stars you are currently raising, once they awaken, it's time to slaughter them. A dignified Emperor star, even with the ability of rebirth, still couldn't escape becoming a pawn and a lamb to be slaughtered in the hands of certain powerful figures. You thought of Wu Xuan. He said someone was hurting all living beings, and the 9 heavens and 10 earths were just a pasture. Are you yourself a pawn or a lamb for others right now? Recalling the vast aura that erupted in the 9 heavens when you created the King of Divine Laws, which scared away all immortal venerables, it might not have been as simple as merely protecting you. Although you already possess strength comparable to a half-step immortal exalted, you still urgently desire to increase your strength. Only by standing high can one see far. Who is the pawn, who is the player? Before the outcome is decided, anything is possible. You quickly captured Booty and Daozi Han Qing. You had originally intended to raise him for a while. Because the higher the Emperor star's strength, the richer the reward after sacrifice. If you forcibly invest them with the gods using the investiture of the gods, it would weaken their star fate and affect the sacrifice. There's no need for that now. A good Emperor star is one that's quickly consumed. Then, he was thrown into your doomsday altar. You chose cultivation again. The immortal bridge that had originally solidified by 70% in your sea of consciousness quickly solidified completely. You broke through to the Immortal Emperor's 2nd realm, the Immortal Bridge realm. 491. Go to the Jink again, the mysterious cloaked man. Linked together, Fei Peng reincarnates. After the Immortal Bridge completely solidified, a phantom of the Jade Pool appeared at the other end of the Immortal Bridge. When the feedback cultivation was completely exhausted, the jade pool phantom solidified by 30%. With your strength increasing sharply again, you couldn't suppress the smile on your face. This sacrifice is truly addictive. It's impossible to stop. It has even turned you, a person of great virtue and kindness, into this current state. However, on the other hand, if these emperor stars were not sacrificed by you, they would most likely be sacrificed by others, or their stellar fates would be seized. You are of great virtue and kindness, but the character of others is unknown. Rather than being sacrificed by some evil person, it's better to be sacrificed by you. Only when your cultivation increases can you deter the petty villains and prevent those demon stars and emperor stars from acting recklessly. Therefore, this is sacrificing the small self to achieve the greater self. It is also an act of immeasurable karma. The immortal bridge primarily grants speed, and your Tao body, with a speed more than 10 times faster than before, entered might virtue heaven. You need to find out whether Fei Peng is truly an emperor star. You would not harm your own brother. But this time, you did not become sworn brothers with him. If he truly is an emperor star, then he will just have to be inconvenienced. After all, maintaining world peace also requires strength. Your Tao body entered might virtue heaven without much fanfare, instead privately finding the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. You were afraid that too much commotion would delay Fei Peng's awakening. The Golden Hall Immortal Emperor is a 7th realm Immortal Emperor, a powerful figure even in the immortal realm. Even if the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor wanted to take him down, she would have to expend some effort. When you broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm, you were comparable to a half-step Immortal Exalted. Now you've advanced another minor realm. Among half-step Immortal Exalted, you are a rare powerhouse. The Golden Hall Immortal Emperor had no power to resist in front of you now and was captured by a single move. You performed a soul search on the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. You discovered that he indeed knew the secret that Fei Peng was an emperor star. This secret was told to him by a mysterious Do Peng Ren several decades ago. The Do Peng Ren told the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor that Fei Peng's natal star was the Do star, and only by letting him voluntarily complete a deeply unforgettable reincarnation experience could he awaken his stellar fate. Besides that, the Do Peng Ren even gave the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor a Doomsday Altar. The Doomsday Altar is an exceptionally precious item, which can be exchanged for many treasures with an immortal venerable. That it was given away for free made you deeply surprised. What is the origin of this Do Peng Ren? Being able to know Fei Peng's awakening method, he is most likely a rebirth emperor star, or a demon star who has already sacrificed an emperor star. If he were a demon star, he could have helped Fei Peng awaken himself and then sacrificed his stellar fate. Why did he give the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor the Doomsday Altar? No matter who it is, this person, who is hiding his true identity, is most likely not an immortal venerable. As long as he is not an immortal venerable, the threat to you is not great. Fei Peng is a 6th realm immortal emperor, and his strength is not weak. Although he knew the awakening method, how to make him reincarnate, and even voluntarily reincarnate, stumped the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. But this did not stump you. You arrived at the Evil Soul continent and forcibly subdued the Evil Sword Immortal. With him, this great weapon, why would Fei Peng not be willing to reincarnate? The Evil Sword Immortal was the evil Nian of a sword immortal from the immortal ancient era. After subduing him, you obtained many secrets about the immortal ancient era from him, as well as the cause of the immortal demon war. Of course, what interested you most was the Dao Ruins realm. In the immortal ancient era, the method of entering the Dao Ruins realm was not as strictly guarded as it is now. Even the existence of the Dao Ruins realm was not a secret. To enter the Dao Ruins realm, one only needed to meet 2 conditions. One was to achieve the fusion of all other selves, forming a complete innate spirit. The other required ascending to the 9 heavens. Regarding the 9 heavens, the Evil Sword Immortal did not know much. He only knew that it was a peculiar place, connecting to the ancestral lands of foreign realms and other epochs. There were even rumors that immortal emperors of successive epochs also went to unknown places through the 9 heavens. Later, the appearance of the Dao Ruins realm blocked this connection. The 9 heavens became the passage to enter the Dao Ruins realm. Ascending to the 9 heavens requires an immortal venerable's recommendation. Otherwise, one can only become an immortal venerable oneself and forcibly enter. You currently have no intention of going to the 9 heavens. There are still so many emperor stars waiting for you to sacrifice. The immortal venerable legacy land has not been visited yet either. After resolving the matter of Fei Peng Immortal Emperor, it will be time to make a trip to the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's place. Hopefully, you can give her a surprise then. After controlling the evil sword Immortal, you also controlled all the high-ranking officials in the Golden Hall Immortal Court, except for Fei Peng. Next, the show began. First to appear was Zunji Heavenly Emperor again. He instructed his second disciple, Chen Qiwan, to cause trouble in Fei Peng's territory. As expected, Chen Qiwan was severely taught a lesson by Fei Peng's subordinates. Then, several other disciples of Zunji Heavenly Emperor also came to cause trouble. The conflict escalated, until Fei Peng personally intervened and severely injured one of them. This, however, angered Zunji Heavenly Emperor. He directly came to their doorstep and had a great battle with Fei Peng. Under the deliberate guidance of Zunji Heavenly Emperor, Fei Peng approached the evil soul continent. Then, the aftermath of their battle destroyed the soul-locking pagoda, releasing the evil sword Immortal. Fei Peng was greatly surprised. Wasn't this evil soul continent supposed to have many protective restrictions? Why were they all gone? When the evil sword Immortal appeared, Fei Peng, to atone for his actions, was the first to charge forward. And then, he was the first to be severely wounded. At this moment, the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor and other masters arrived, and by combining their strength, they barely managed to withstand the evil sword Immortal's assault. At a critical moment, the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor revealed a shocking secret to Fei Peng. It turned out that he was an unawakened Emperor star. His natal star was the Do star, which excelled in combat, and he could only awaken through reincarnation. Now, only by awakening his natal star could there be hope of suppressing the evil sword Immortal again. Even if he failed to awaken, the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor and others would pull him out of reincarnation. Fei Peng did not hesitate and directly allowed his true spirit to enter reincarnation. Fei Peng reincarnated into a kingdom in a lower realm, becoming a prince of the Zhang kingdom. Born with him was a twin sister. King Zhang named the siblings Long Yang and Long Kui respectively. Although the siblings were dragon and phoenix twins, their personalities were completely different. Long Yang was quiet, while Long Kui was active. No matter how much his parents and sister tried to please him, he seemed indifferent. Your Tao body observed all of this, continuously accelerating the time in that world. 492. Long Kui's death, Fei Peng awakens. Break through the third realm of the Immortal Emperor, the Red Snake Divine Mountain. But Long Yang was the reincarnation of an Immortal Emperor, inherently indifferent to emotions. It would be equally difficult to make him accomplish the latter. You decided to start with his younger sister, Long Kui. Time slowly passed. Although Long Yang was emotionally detached, his younger sister always liked to pester him to play. As the two gradually grew up, Long Kui's concern and reliance on her brother increased daily. However, none of this melted Long Yang's icy heart. He only felt that this younger sister was very annoying. If only she would disappear one day. Then he would have much more peace and quiet. Perhaps due to being a war god in his previous life, Long Yang was naturally very interested in martial arts. Every day, he used practicing martial arts as an excuse to avoid Long Kui. Seeing that her brother liked martial arts, Long Kui also began to practice. However, she was always clumsy. Therefore, she received a lot of ridicule from Long Yang, who said she was not cut out for martial arts. Long Kui, however, didn't mind, saying that as long as it made her brother happy, it was fine. Time flew by, and both of them reached 16 years of age. Long Yang had by this time become a renowned martial Dao grandmaster. Due to the urgent situation at the border, Long Yang repeatedly wanted to go to war, but King Zhang refused, citing his status as the crown prince. And Long Kui still only knew rudimentary martial arts. She knew her brother wanted to leave the palace. She specially took Long Yang, disguised them, and left the Zhang royal palace. Long Yang saw the outside world for the first time. Although he was scolded upon his return, it still made him change his opinion of his younger sister. As large portions of the border territory fell into enemy hands, King Zhang had no choice but to personally lead the army. Not long after, bad news arrived. King Zhang died in battle. Long Yang became the new king of Zhang, taking over the mess his father left behind, and began to personally engage in battle. But the enemy's power was too strong. Even though he personally commanded the troops, they suffered repeated defeats, causing Zhang to lose most of its territory. You stand high above, overlooking everything. The crucial moment is approaching, it all depends on Long Yang's choice. Just as Long Yang was at his wit's end, someone offered the legendary Devil Sword blueprint. As long as the Devil Sword was forged, one person could stand against 1,000 troops and 10,000 horses. Long Yang was overjoyed and quickly mobilized all the craftsmen to forge it day and night. A month later, the enemy army had already reached the capital. And the Devil Sword was only one step away from completion. But then, the person who had originally offered the Devil Sword blueprint said, to complete it, a person of extreme yin must be sacrificed, and that person was his younger sister, Long Kui. Long Yang firmly refused. When Long Kui found out, she jumped directly into the casting sword pond in front of him. The Devil Sword was born, shaking heaven and earth. And Long Yang went mad because of it. He wielded the Devil Sword, slaughtering the enemy army until blood flowed like rivers and corpses lay everywhere. With immense hatred in his heart, after annihilating the army, he directly invaded the enemy country. Only when he had exhausted his last shred of energy and collapsed to the ground did a sense of relief wash over him. Just then, a huge sun fell from the sky. Long Yang finally awakened his own natal star. His true spirit detached from reincarnation and returned to Fei Peng. With the blessings of his natal star and past life memories, Fei Peng's strength greatly increased. He wanted to assist everyone in sealing the evil sword immortal. Afterward, he would go into reincarnation to revive his younger sister, Long Kui. Although they were only family for less than 20 years, Long Kui had become the brilliant and warm sun in his heart. However, everyone looked at him with profound gazes. What's wrong? Are you still fighting or not? The gazes of the crowd made his heart pound. A white-clothed youth, holding the doomsday altar with one hand, stepped through the air. Only then did Fei Peng understand everything. It turned out that all these commotions were directed at him. All of this was fake. However, he looked at you with unwilling eyes. My younger sister, Long Kui. You said indifferently, don't worry, she is real. After you die, I will grant her a lifetime of wealth and prosperity. Upon hearing this, Fei Peng did not resist and was directly taken into the doomsday altar. To be able to quietly subdue so many experts, it was clear that he could not resist. The great existence in the dark descended once again. The current doomsday altar had devoured the altar given by Dopeng Ren in the hands of the Golden Hall Immortal Emperor. Your perception of the existence in the dark became more concrete. You felt that it seemed to express appreciation for you. You had continuously sacrificed several imperial stars in a short period of time. In its eyes, you were clearly exceptionally outstanding. Alas, you also didn't want to sacrifice so many imperial stars. It was this man-eating world that forced you. That you could become the strongest devil star was all this world's fault. You once again chose your cultivation realm. The Yaoqi phantom in your sea of consciousness rapidly solidified. When the Yaoqi completely solidified, the feedback from the sacrifice gradually ran out. You broke through to the Immortal Emperor's third realm, the Yaoqi realm. Your strength increased by another notch. The 7 realms of the Immortal Emperor were all created by an immortal Venerable. This Yaoqi realm was precisely created by the Yaoqi Jade Mother who killed you back then. The Immortal Gate primarily enhances combat power, allowing one's fighting strength to greatly increase. The Immortal Bridge primarily governs speed, making it more convenient whether traversing dimensions or entering the river of time. And this Yaoqi, on the other hand, primarily governs recovery. With it, an Immortal Emperor's recovery speed in battle will increase by more than 10 times. This should also be related to the Tao principles mastered by the Yaoqi Jade Mother. You wonder if you will be able to create a realm unique to yourself in the future. Next, it's time to go to Crimson Training God Mountain. Don't keep the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor waiting too long. Your Tao body entered the 7th heaven. Previously, to enter the 7th heaven, you had to forcefully break through the dimensional barrier. Now, it's like a drop of water merging, silently passing through the dimensional barrier. This is clearly a sign of your greatly increased strength. The 7th heaven is countless times vaster than the 6th heaven. There are hundreds of landmasses alone. Even the smallest continent is larger than the 6th heaven. For example, the primordial continent is several times larger than the 6th heaven. Not to mention, there are oceans even larger than the continents. The 7th heaven has many immortal venerable forces. Therefore, even though your current strength is formidable, you always enter with extreme discretion. Crimson Training God Mountain is located on the Skyfire continent. And it is one of the few forbidden lands on the Skyfire continent. You traveled for 3 days and finally arrived here. It happened that an immortal boat was passing nearby. Seeing that you intended to directly trespass into Crimson Training God Mountain, someone on the immortal boat quickly stopped you, saying that it was a forbidden land, inhabited by a red-haired female devil head who killed without batting an eye, and that you looked honest and simple, so you absolutely must not barge in and seek death. 493. Refining the Red Snake Immortal Emperor. 4-level assessment, the Heavenly Witch Domain. Who is speaking ill of me behind my back? Just then, blood-colored petals drifted down from the sky, and a red-haired, enchanting woman, at some unknown point, sat on the crossbar of the immortal ship's mast. Crimson Training Immortal Emperor. The faces of everyone on the immortal ship turned pale, and their voices trembled uncontrollably. The Crimson Training Immortal Emperor originated from the Devil Head sect. Throughout her cultivation, her hands had been stained with countless lives. It was only later, as her strength increased and killing weaker immortal cultivators became less enjoyable, that she came to Crimson Training God Mountain and rarely ventured out. However, her notorious reputation still preceded her, filling everyone on the immortal ship with immense fear. There wasn't even an immortal emperor on the immortal ship, how could they possibly contend with her? At this moment, you said, "All right, no need to scare these juniors." Only then did everyone realize that you were also a senior with profound cultivation. And you even looked like an old acquaintance of the Crimson Training Devil Head. Most likely, you were also a great devil head who committed all sorts of evil. The Crimson Training Immortal Emperor floated before you and said with a smile, "What's wrong, my young master? Have you finally thought it through and decided to come find your older sister?" You smiled mysteriously and said, "Of course, but I'm not here to sign any contract with you." No sooner had your voice faded than the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor felt the surrounding void realm pressing down on her. It also carried a powerful restraining force. When she broke through the void realm and flew out, freeing herself, she gritted her teeth and said, "Since you refuse to cherish this, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Before she could finish, her voice abruptly stopped. She looked up in a daze, only to see you, countless times larger than before, like a divine being standing tall between heaven and earth. She had, at some unknown point, fallen into your palm. She was an immortal emperor of the 8th realm, even if a 9th realm immortal emperor attacked her. It would be impossible to suppress her so easily. This was absolutely the strength only a half-step immortal exalted possessed. If you truly had the strength of a half-step immortal exalted, you wouldn't have let her go before. But how could your strength have surged so much in just a few short decades? You no longer gave her a chance to speak. You grabbed her and instantly refined her. Everyone on the immortal ship watched, dumbfounded. It turned out this senior wasn't some great devil head, but rather a person of great virtue and kindness who had come to suppress this female devil head. They had all misunderstood you. Soon, you obtained the information you wanted from the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's divine soul. The trial grounds she spoke of were located in a distant, broken dimension. She had also stumbled into it by chance while searching for an opportunity earlier. However, the legacy grounds were not discovered by her alone. The legacy of an immortal venerable could not be hidden from true immortal venerables. Therefore, many immortal venerable forces also had core disciples participating in the legacy trial. It was just that, under the tacit concealment of the immortal venerable forces, it remained unknown to other factions. "Senior, would you care for a cup of hot tea? Someone on the immortal ship came to invite you." You smiled and politely declined, and after packing up Crimson Training God Mountain, your figure flickered and disappeared from the spot. Everyone sighed, indeed, a divine being. From now on, the Heavenfire continent would have another legend. After leaving the Heavenfire continent, you obtained more detailed information from the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's mind. You learned that the broken dimension was called the Tianwu domain, and it had already become a ruin before the ancient Chaos era, which is why it was rarely known in the immortal domain. The Crimson Training Immortal Emperor had obtained many good things from the trial. However, there was one point earlier where the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor had lied to you. She said she had entered the trial grounds multiple times. But each person could only participate in the trial once. Unless one entered the final stage, only then would there be a second chance to enter the trial grounds. To acquire more valuable treasures, she had thought of recruiting people to join her. Of course, she would definitely not provoke anyone from immortal venerable forces. She chose only loose cultivators like yourself. In the immortal venerable trial, it wasn't just strength that was tested. This might also be why she noticed you and helped you in the previous simulation. However, her intentions were ultimately malicious, and she could not escape the outcome of being refined. You learned from the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's memories. The Immortal Venerable assessment was divided into 4 stages in total. The first 3 stages respectively assessed comprehension ability, cultivation, and spiritual will. The assessment results for each stage were further divided into A, B, C, and D. Different grades yielded different rewards. For the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor, her best performance was in the cultivation stage. She received an upper B evaluation. It was in that stage that she obtained the cultivation methods for the Immortal Emperor's 8th and 9th realms. According to the Immortal Venerable's rewards, these 2 subsequent realms were called Divine Hall and Emperor Seat respectively. However, you could only find the names. The specific cultivation methods seemed to have been deliberately erased. It seems there truly is a terrifying existence deliberately preventing the spread of these 2 realms. The trial of the Tianwu Immortal Lord could actually break through this kind of restriction, indicating that this Tianwu Immortal Lord was also extraordinary. And the 4th stage was the true legacy stage. To enter the 4th stage, the comprehensive evaluation of the first 3 stages must reach A. The Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's comprehensive evaluation was only middle B. She simply did not have the qualification to enter. According to the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's memory, currently only 10 people have successfully advanced to the 4th stage. However, the 4th stage has not officially begun yet. It is said that once 12 people are gathered, the guardian divine being of the Immortal Venerable trial grounds will activate the final trial. With your current strength, obtaining a spot shouldn't be too much of a problem, right? However, given the Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's cultivation and talent, she only received a middle B evaluation. You felt it was safer to play it safe. Moreover, even if you could enter the 4th stage, there were other competitors. Those people all had Immortal Venerables backing them, and you might not be able to compete with them. And to take another step back, if you defeated all competitors and obtained the legacy of the Tianwu Immortal Lord. But other Immortal Venerables might not play fair. What would you do if they simply snatched it from you? Just like the Jade Universe Celestial Venerable last time, he actually bullied you, a junior, for the sake of a disciple, and attacked you fiercely. Therefore, these Immortal Venerables never had the restraint of the older generation. You still had many Emperor stars to devour. Only after your strength increased further and you had no fear of Immortal Venerables would you have full confidence in obtaining the legacy. Anyway, there weren't too many restrictions on entry, as long as your realm didn't exceed Immortal Venerable. Of course, you also had to constantly monitor the changes in the available spots. You couldn't let others take all the spots. For this, you sent a Dao body to the desolate domain to constantly supervise this matter. After your Dao body arrived in the Tianwu domain, you discovered that there were truly many experts here. Many people came to participate in the experience. For this reason, an immortal city named Wu was even formed outside the trial grounds, where many immortal cultivators specifically served these powerful figures. 494. Tianqi liquid, greatly increased comprehension. Continuous sacrifices, breaking through the 5th realm of the Immortal Emperor. It was extremely convenient to gather information in Wu City. Since you came into contact with more Immortal Venerable forces, your knowledge also greatly increased. Most importantly, there were also many treasures specifically for the assessment sold in Wu City. There's no need to mention the aspect of spiritual will. Your spiritual will had long since reached the 7th realm of manifestation. As for cultivation, there were many immortal pills. However, most of them had negative side effects, so you didn't think much of them. What you valued most was comprehension ability. Wu City had a celestial Chong liquid, an immortal liquid refined by the myriad spirit Immortal Venerable, which could increase a small amount of comprehension ability even for an Immortal Venerable who consumed it. This item was extremely good, but also very expensive. The value of a small bottle was equivalent to an innate spirit treasure. Fortunately, you had the Hongmeng Dao Palace, and what you lacked least were innate spirit treasures. You directly used various identities to sweep up goods in the city. In just 1 month, you swept away over 1,000 bottles of Celestial Chong liquid. For a time, there was even a shortage of Celestial Chong liquid in Wu City. After your main body consumed 1 bottle, you felt your comprehension ability increased by 1%. Given your current comprehension ability, this was already extremely astonishing. Time flew by, and 3 years quickly passed. You successively swept up several thousand more bottles of Celestial Chong liquid. You refined all of these celestial Chong liquids. Although the effect became weaker the further you went, your comprehension ability still increased by more than 20 times. It could be said to be a huge improvement. Your cultivation speed also skyrocketed accordingly. 2 years later, you successfully condensed the celestial sea beneath the Jade Pond. You successfully broke through to the Immortal Emperor 4th realm. The celestial sea governs immortal power, making your immortal power more than 10 times grander, and your strength increased significantly again. Currently, among those below the Immortal Venerable, you are almost unrivaled. It's just unknown how you compare to Hongjun Old Ancestor. Hongjun Old Ancestor became a half-step immortal exalted at the beginning of the primordial era. According to Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's memory, Hongjun Old Ancestor was the most top-tier existence among half-step immortal exalted, holding the top-tier innate supreme treasure, Jade Creation Disc fragments, and had escaped from Immortal Venerable's hands several times. You are quite looking forward to the day you can fight him. As the realm improves, the difficulty increases further down the line. Even with your current great increase in comprehension ability, you estimate that if you rely on yourself to break through to the Immortal Emperor 5th realm, it would take at least 5 or 6 years. This amount of time is not long for mortals. But you still have Yuan Yan and Crown Prince Kaiyuan, these 2 Emperor stars, in your hands. Not devouring them always makes you itch. You began to ponder how to make Yuan Yan and Crown Prince Kaiyuan awaken their star fates earlier. Also, Journey to the West and Investiture of the Gods also needed to be sped up. Emperor stars are still somewhat useful to you now, but their usefulness will become less and less once you break through to Immortal Venerable. So, you have to use them quickly while they are still useful. You don't have any hoarding habit. Next, you began to vigorously cultivate Yuan Yan. His destiny star was the gluttonous star, and he could awaken it by devouring enough resources. Previously, you were afraid of overfeeding him and did not let him devour with all his might. Now, you directly force-fed him. He had to devour, even if he didn't want to. With your help, Yuan Yan had to devour massive resources every day, his face contorted in pain. In just half a year, he awakened the gluttonous star. Afterward, you kicked him directly into the Doomsday Altar. The great existence in the netherworld descended again and again. Why is it you again? You little brat, are you going crazy with killing? The other demon stars are really useless. You felt the resentment towards the other demon stars from the unknown existence. Alas, sometimes being too outstanding is also a kind of trouble. You received the cultivation reward again. About 50% of the 5th ancestral court building in your sea of consciousness, the divine platform, had condensed. Well, it saved you several years of arduous cultivation. Next, sacrifice Crown Prince Kaiyuan. You should be able to break through then. Why hasn't Crown Prince Kaiyuan awakened yet? According to the normal trajectory, he would probably awaken after more than 200 years. You noticed that his realm was 1 level lower than in the last simulation. In the last simulation, he was at the Immortal Emperor 5th realm. Now he's only at the Immortal Emperor 4th realm peak. Is it because his cultivation hasn't met the standard? You quickly had your Dao body in Wu City go buy some immortal pills and miraculous medicines that could help people break through quickly. Your Dao body quickly purchased the Immortal Emperor pill. As long as an Immortal Emperor consumes 10 pills, they are guaranteed to break through 1 realm. But the price is that after the breakthrough, their cultivation will never advance again. Giving it to him to eat is already cheap for him, does he still want to advance? You directly held down Crown Prince Kaiyuan and force-fed it to him. Soon, Crown Prince Kaiyuan broke through to the Immortal Emperor 5th realm. A large amount of starlight condensed above his head, and his Destiny Emperor star awakened. Indeed, it was the realm that limited him. After awakening, the future Crown Prince Kaiyuan was reborn. He kept begging you for mercy, saying he knew many opportunities. What opportunity or not, it's too polite, if you sacrifice him, you'll know anyway. Get in there. You threw Crown Prince Kaiyuan into the Doomsday Altar. Crown Prince Kaiyuan was like a fish thrown into a hot oil pan, constantly letting out Kanjiao agonizing screams. Soon, his agonizing screams abruptly stopped. The great existence in the netherworld descended yet again. This was its 6th descent. As expected, it saw you again. Without you saying anything, it understood. A large amount of cultivation was directly poured down. The divine platform in your sea of consciousness solidified. You successfully broke through to the Immortal Emperor 5th realm. Your divine soul power greatly increased, and your strength greatly increased. It was truly too fast, much more satisfying than when you were an immortal lord. You had only recently broke through to Immortal Emperor, and now you were already at the 5th realm. Of course, for you to achieve all of this, Emperor stars and such were merely auxiliary. What was the most important thing? It was your own hard work. Emperor stars are not fools, they won't just come to you. You painstakingly captured all of them. You also painstakingly helped them awaken. These are all your sweat, your toil. As an Emperor star, they only need to be sacrificed, but you have to consider many things. Next, it's the batch of Emperor stars in the primordial world. They need to awaken through investiture of the gods. The primordial world is still doing Journey to the West right now. By the time Journey to the West is finished and investiture of the gods gets on track, it will be hundreds of years later. This speed is too slow. You have to give them a push. Let's start with Journey to the West. Currently, Sun Wukong's rampage in the Heavenly Palace has ended, and he is suppressed under the Five Fingers Mountain. Since he was a good brother in the last simulation, let's get him a system. This system is very simple, it's called the Great Sage Equal to Heaven system. As long as he completes the system's tasks, the monkey can enter a place with 10,000 times acceleration and unlimited resources to cultivate quickly. This place is not the Chongsheng world, it's a system space you specially created for the monkey. 495. Monkey breaks the seal, killing all around. Quickly pass the Journey to the West, breaking through the 6th realm of the Immortal Emperor. Of course, all the cultivation resources inside were put in by you. After all, good brothers shouldn't be rushed. You can't just feed him Immortal Emperor pills or anything. He still needs to cultivate on his own. With 10,000 times acceleration, 1 year is 10,000 years. Moreover, he was formed from a heaven-mending divine stone, possessing unparalleled aptitude. I believe it won't be long before he can break through to Emperor Light Immortal King. The first mission the system gave him was to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Only with ample energy can one cultivate better. Upon completion, the system would reward him with 10,000 years of cultivation time. Sun Wukong initially didn't believe in any system, thinking he was hallucinating. However, after he slept for 3 days and 3 nights, he found himself in an immortal mansion. At this point, he had no choice but to believe. Especially when he saw the surrounding area piled high with immense treasures and cultivation resources, his eyes lit up. Sun Wukong was inherently unruly, and being suppressed under the Five Fingers Mountain was a great humiliation for him. Now with a system and no shortage of resources, he immediately began to cultivate like crazy. After he emerged from Lord Taishang's Bagua furnace, he had already broken through to a common immortal king, capable of fighting a supreme immortal king. Subsequently, with abundant resources, he only took 1,000 years to cultivate to the Supreme Immortal King realm. It took him another 4,000 years to cultivate to the Emperor Light Immortal King. Now, his strength is considered top tier among Emperor Light Immortal Kings. However, the system time still had 5,000 years remaining. He didn't waste it, completing his cultivation before coming out. When he emerged, he was at the peak of the Emperor Light Immortal King realm. He vowed to ascend to the heavenly court once more and become the great sage equal to heaven. As soon as he came out, the system gave him a new mission. Break the seal of the Five Fingers Mountain, and the reward would be an enhanced golden hooped rod. There were only a few innate spirit treasures in Mozang heaven, and his wish-fulfilling golden hooped rod was merely an acquired supreme treasure. Could it be enhanced into an innate spirit treasure? However, even if the system didn't give him a mission, he would still break the seal. This mission would just be completed in passing. Sun Wukong's current realm was even higher than that of the Western Paradise Buddha. With a slight effort, he shattered the seal. His wish-fulfilling golden hooped rod disappeared. Soon, a wish-fulfilling golden hooped rod radiating a terrifying aura appeared before him. How did he feel it was stronger than all the innate spirit treasures he had encountered? Your wish-fulfilling golden hooped rod has been enhanced into a top-tier innate spirit treasure, a rare treasure even for high-level immortal emperors. Now, it truly became a great killing weapon. Sun Wukong's escape from the seal startled the heavenly gods and Buddhas of both East and West. The Western Paradise Buddha soon descended upon the Five Fingers Mountain. You mischievous monkey, you truly haven't changed your ways. The Western Paradise Buddha shook his head and once again unleashed his Tathagata divine palm. Unexpectedly, Sun Wukong directly shattered his palm with a single rod strike and even made him vomit blood. The heavenly gods and Buddhas were dumbfounded and incredulous. It had only been less than 2 years since he was sealed. How could Sun Wukong be so powerful? The Nine Heavens Immortal King could no longer sit still and had to step forward. The relationship between the Nine Heavens Immortal Court and Little Western Heaven was not particularly good. But if Sun Wukong were to kill the Western Paradise Buddha, he would certainly be left to face things alone. Just as Sun Wukong was about to unleash havoc, the system issued another mission. It required him to complete the Western pilgrimage within 1 year. Upon completion, the system would reward him with 100,000 years of cultivation time. If he failed, he would be directly erased. The system's divine ability was vast, and Sun Wukong had no doubt about the consequences of failure. He could only temporarily suppress his anger and began negotiating with the Nine Heavens Immortal King and the Western Paradise Buddha, urging them to prepare for the Western pilgrimage as soon as possible. The Nine Heavens Immortal King and the Western Paradise Buddha exchanged glances, thinking there was a trick, and did not agree. Sun Wukong flew into a rage. Damn it, you're refusing a good offer, aren't you? He swung his rod, beating the two of them half to death. Then he sealed them both and personally took charge of the Western pilgrimage. At this point, Sun Wukong became the most influential figure in both the East and West. He could do whatever he wanted. Who would dare to stop his Western pilgrimage now? Under the threat of death, the heavenly gods and Buddhas arranged various actions at light speed. In less than a month, the pilgrimage team was assembled. The Western pilgrimage began. Along the way, the 81 tribulations certainly could not be fewer. The monsters chosen to be part of the pilgrimage tribulations cried out to the heavens, begging Sun Wukong for mercy. Sun Wukong naturally acted according to his mood. Those he liked, he spared, and those he disliked, he killed with a single rod strike. For the demons, this was a true test of their acting skills, and their powerful backers were useless. Time flew by, and the pilgrimage team completed the entire journey in just half a year, quickly retrieving the true scriptures. Along the way, only 1/3 of the monsters survived. The survival rate increased as they went further. Because the later monsters knew that Sun Wukong liked to be called Great Sage Grandpa. During battle, as long as they knelt and kowtowed a few times, shouting, "Great Sage Grandpa, spare my life," their chances of survival would at least increase by 60%. After the pilgrimage, the heavenly gods and Buddhas were uneasy, wondering how Sun Wukong would treat them next. Unexpectedly, Sun Wukong completely ignored them and directly entered the system space to cultivate. This Mozang heaven was still too small. He was no longer interested in being a local emperor here. After further improving his strength, he would go to a higher level world. 6,000 years later, Sun Wukong successfully broke through to quasi-immortal emperor. After that, his cultivation speed slowed down considerably. Especially in finding and fusion with his other selves, which was extremely time-consuming. 70,000 years later, Sun Wukong finally fused with 999 of his other selves and successfully broke through to Immortal Emperor. 100,000 years later, Sun Wukong emerged from seclusion, having completely consolidated his Immortal Emperor realm and successfully cultivated several Immortal Emperor laws within the system space. Meanwhile, only 10 years had passed in the outside world. Sun Wukong was still looking forward to what command the system would issue next. Unexpectedly, the Great Sage Equal to Heaven system said, "Congratulations, host, for breaking through to Immortal Emperor. You have become a true Great Sage Equal to Heaven. Farewell." Then, the system disappeared. Sun Wukong jumped 3 feet high. That's it. If he had known this, he would have breakthrough slower and cultivated more techniques. You, observing all this in secret, shook your head speechlessly. He's already an Immortal Emperor, what more does he want? You, the creator of this system, are only an Immortal Emperor yourself. If it weren't for Sun Wukong risking his life to bring you 2 Immortal Emperor laws in the last simulation, changing your heaven-defying fate, he would be dreaming of breakthrough to Immortal Emperor. In these past 10 years, your cultivation has also progressed greatly. You have already condensed the Jade Capital and successfully broke through to the 6th realm of Immortal Emperor. The Jade Capital primarily governs immortal laws. After its completion, the power of immortal laws greatly increases. 496. Borrowing the list of gods again, the 9-turn Immortal Pill. The old monster of the Eclipse Demon, suppressing the half-step Immortal Venerable. Currently, only the Ling Xiao, Divine Hall, and Emperor Seat realms remain. I wonder if mastering all of them will allow me to contend with an Immortal Venerable. The gap between an Immortal Venerable and a half-step Immortal Exalted is too vast. A half-step Immortal Exalted can already master Tao principles. But there are tens of thousands of Tao principles, countless in number, and to break through an Immortal Venerable, one must master the top 3,000 Tao principles. Besides that, one must also break through their divine soul and immortal power to the Immortal Venerable level. Time reversal also needs to reach the primeval era. However, with the existence of the Tao Ruins realm, the path of time reversal has been blocked. Even if the previous requirements are met, one still cannot break through. This also leads to a huge disparity between half-step Immortal Exalted. The most powerful ones can exchange a few blows with an Immortal Venerable. The weakest ones can be instantly killed by an Immortal Venerable's single gaze. And Hongjun, old ancestor of the primordial lineage, is definitely among the most powerful. Even the Immortal Venerables of the 7th heaven must give him some face. However, you intend to seize the Emperor star in the investiture of the gods. Sooner or later, you will have to fight him. Although he has Jade Creation Disc fragments, you also have the Hongmeng Dao Palace and Merit Golden Lotus, two great innate spirit treasures, so it's hard to say who will win. This is also your confidence in planning the investiture of the gods. Not long after the monkey completed his journey, Lord Taisheng's true body found your Dao body through the reincarnation heavenly palace. He actually doesn't know your true identity. But the investiture of the gods is of great importance, so he had to come and borrow it no matter what. You directly took out the investiture of the gods that you had reforged. The original investiture of the gods had already been upgraded by you to the level of a top-tier innate spirit treasure. This new investiture of the gods is just an ordinary innate spirit treasure, and you have tampered with it, so only you are its true master. Lord Taisheng was slightly surprised, not expecting you to be so straightforward. You said you had long admired the primordial lineage, and a mere innate spirit treasure was just a way to forge a good relationship. Upon hearing this, Lord Taisheng felt embarrassed to take it for nothing, so he specifically took out a gourd of golden core and gifted it to you. This was his 9 Revolutions Undying Pill, which is very beneficial for immortal power. After Lord Taisheng left, you spent half a month refining the hundreds of 9 Revolutions Undying Pills in the gourd, and your immortal power increased by several tenths. Your current total immortal power is already terrifying, and the 9 Revolutions Undying Pill can still increase it by several tenths, which is indeed good. 3 months later, a new batch of Celestial Chong liquid arrived in Wu City of the Tianwu domain. When your Dao body purchased it, you found that someone had been following you, and their chi was not weak. You didn't pay attention to this person, as fighting is forbidden in Wu City. However, this person stuck to you like a dog's skin plaster, seemingly trying to find your residence. Since someone was determined to seek death, you had no choice but to grant his wish. You left Wu City and arrived in the Void Realm outside the domain. A black-robed old man followed close behind. As soon as he appeared, blood rain fell in the Void Realm, and ghosts and gods cried, among other strange phenomena. This was actually a half-step Immortal Exalted. You recognize this person as Old Freak Shimo, infamous in Wu City. Although he was a half-step Immortal Exalted, he often hunted Immortal Emperors, which was despised by others. But because he was extremely careful about his actions and never provoked anyone from Immortal Venerable forces, he had been living a carefree life all these years. Old Freak Shimo chuckled sinisterly, saying that since you bought so much Celestial Chong liquid, if you could give him half, he might spare your life. You asked if he wasn't afraid that you were a disciple of a certain Immortal Venerable. Old Freak Shimo snorted, saying he had been observing you for a long time, and you always acted alone, and when you bought Celestial Chong liquid, you kept changing your identity. If you were an Immortal Venerable's disciple, how could you be so cautious? You didn't expect that being careful and cautious would make him think you were weak and easily bullied. Very well, you had never fought a half-step Immortal Exalted before, so you would use him to test your strength. With a thought, 12 top-tier immortal swords instantly unfolded, forming a sword formation that twisted and killed towards Old Freak Shimo. This was your enhanced immortal slaying sword formation that you had created over the years. Below half-step Immortal Exalted, anyone who touched it would surely die. Even a half-step Immortal Exalted would not have an easy time. Unexpectedly, Old Freak Shimo showed a look of greed instead, saying that you were indeed a big fish. Then, he unleashed the Shimo Dao principles he had mastered, and immediately, cold winds howled throughout the heavens and earth. The Shimo Dao principles were extremely corrosive. Even top-tier immortal swords, under the corrosion of the Shimo Dao principles, suffered damage to their spirituality and greatly reduced their power. Boom! Boom, boom, as the two of you battled, divine might shook the void realm. Sword chi and devilish chi crisscrossed, like a scene of the apocalypse. It alarmed many powerful experts from Wu City, who came to watch the battle. Seeing two half-step immortal exalted battling, many people's hearts trembled. Even though Wu City had many experts, half-step immortal exalted were not that common. However, most people did not favor you. Although old freak Shimo was infamous, his battle record was solid. He was not weak among half-step immortal exalted. And you, this half-step immortal exalted, were unknown to anyone, most likely having just broken through, so it was naturally difficult to compare with an veteran expert like old freak Shimo. At this time, you had not yet used the merit golden lotus. And under the watchful eyes of the crowd, you also did not intend to use it. Since the 12 immortal swords couldn't do anything to old freak Shimo, then add another 12. Another 12 top-tier immortal swords appeared behind you. This greatly shocked old freak Shimo. Top-tier immortal swords were not common goods, and you were using them as if they were free, even more extravagant than a disciple of an immortal venerable. The immortal slaying sword formation formed by a total of 24 top-tier innate spirit treasures caused old freak Shimo's pressure to surge. Blood seeped from the corner of his mouth as he said, "You brat are too sinister, this old man isn't playing with you anymore." As he was about to flee, a formation diagram filled with monstrous killing intent, stretching for hundreds of millions of miles, suddenly appeared, enveloping him. This was the immortal slaying formation diagram that you had spent over 30 top-tier innate spirit treasures to create. That terrifying fluctuation made all the immortal emperors watching the battle feel an urge to prostrate themselves in worship. Everyone gasped, "What a grand gesture." With this formation diagram, old freak Shimo was completely a turtle in a jar, with nowhere to escape. Boom, the sword formation combined with the formation diagram, greatly increasing its power. Rolling sword chi, like a cascading silver river, boundless and vast, raged through the void realm, actively attacking old freak Shimo. This time, old freak Shimo had no way to ascend to the heavens or descend to the earth, and his entire body was covered in blood. "Ah!" he screamed, his body exploding like a torn rag, and his immortal soul split into two halves. Everyone watched with tingling scalps, utterly shocked. The power of this sword formation was probably comparable to some innate spirit treasures, right? Then, in front of everyone, you completely suppressed old freak Shimo. Everyone sighed, "If you walk by the river often, how can your shoes not get wet?" This guy finally kicked an iron plate. 497. Hongwang Continent, Chintang Pass. The demon child is born, the ancestor Hongjun. First there was Wangji Immortal Emperor, then Crimson Training Immortal Emperor, and now old freak Shimo. You have already suppressed quite a few powerhouses. Simply being suppressed is too much of a waste. How can their maximum value be realized? The immortal emperors you encounter now are generally weak, and the feedback after sacrifice is also relatively low. It would be great if their strength could be transferred to the immortal emperors. You remembered the soul-shifting great law obtained from Crimson Training Immortal Emperor's old lair. If the divine souls of the immortal emperors were transferred into their bodies, would that not be a disguised way of strengthening the immortal emperors? However, the most important thing for an immortal emperor is their star fate. If only the divine soul is moved, and the star fate does not follow, then it is useless. The immortal emperors in your hands have all been sacrificed, so whether it will work or not, you will have to find an awakening immortal emperor to test it out. I wonder who will be the lucky one whose strength greatly increases. You cast your gaze towards the primordial lineage. There are still 6 unawakened immortal emperors there. Nezha, Yang Jian, Gfa, Lei Junzi, Zhang Zia, Shen Gongbao. Whoever awakens first naturally has the greatest chance of becoming the lucky one. Ever since Lord Taisheng took the new investiture of the gods from you, the matter of the investiture of the gods has gradually begun. Your Tao body specifically went to the primordial continent to facilitate the awakening in seconds. It is said that this primordial continent was built by old ancestor Hongjun, modeled after a miniature version of the primordial. The mountains are majestic, and primordial exotic species are everywhere. It gives you a feeling of coming to the ancient times in the river of time. The primordial continent is mostly undeveloped land, and the human race occupies less than 1/5 of it, distributed in tribal forms. The strongest tribe is named Shang. It is the co-lord of all tribes in the world, and has already established its own cities and palaces, also known as the Shang dynasty. The ruler of the Shang dynasty, King Zhou of Shang, has been passed down for an unknown number of generations. When King Zhou of Shang, Di Xin, first ascended the throne, he did have the demeanor of a heroic ruler. However, the change of dynasty is a destined matter, beyond human power. King Zhou of Shang was also destined to enter the investiture of the gods. Even if he was not incompetent, someone would find a way to make him so. You have no sympathy for King Zhou of Shang. If he had worked as hard as you, he would not have ended up as a pawn. As soon as a demon seduces him, he becomes obsessed with beauty. Who can he blame for that? A mortal king like him, with a poor hard nature, it is difficult for him to turn his fortunes around. After Su Daji, possessed by the nine-tailed fox, died, the heavy responsibility of disrupting the court fell to her good sister, the nine-headed pheasant spirit. The nine-headed pheasant spirit possessed a woman named Huzaime and became a favored concubine of King Zhou. The nine-headed pheasant spirit, unlike Su Daji, had no feelings for King Zhou of Shang. All her actions were aimed at completing her master's mission. Compared to the heart gouging of Bygone and the wine pool and meat forest created by Su Daji, she was even more extreme. She cultivated her own power in the court, wantonly killed loyal officials, heavily used corrupt officials, and private torture became common. She even wanted to be the ruler of the Shang dynasty, to experience the thrill of being a queen before the Shang dynasty collapsed. It must be said that she was an ambitious chicken, just that her limelight was previously overshadowed by Su Daji. You came to the human race area of the primordial continent, wandered around Cheoj, the capital of the Shang dynasty, and then went to check the status of other immortal emperors. Nezha was still in his mother's womb in Chintang Pass, not yet born. Yang Jian was studying under Immortal Master Yuding in Yiquan Mountain, Jingxia Cave. Gfa was not in his fief, but in Cheoj, serving as a guard for King Zhou of Shang, similar to a hostage. Lei Junzi was not yet born. Zhang Zia and Shen Gongbao had just left Kunlun Mountain Yushu Palace, preparing to find their respective enlightened masters. These 6 people were all unawakened at this time. According to Su Daji's memory, the first to awaken was Nezha. After Nezha returned his bones to his father and was reborn, he would be able to awaken the chaotic star. It's just that Nezha's mother, Lady Yin, is only 6 months pregnant now. She would be pregnant for 3 years before giving birth to Nezha. At the age of 7, he would kill the 3rd prince of the Dragon King, return his bones to his father, and his flesh to his mother. Carefully calculated, there is still nearly 10 years of time. You decided to give him a push. The reason Nezha's mother was pregnant for so long was that he was the reincarnation of the Spirit Pearl, and nurturing him required immense energy. The Spirit Pearl and the demonic orb both originated from the innate wonder, the primordial Chaos Pearl. Coincidentally, you had the demonic orb obtained from old freak Shimo, so you quietly injected it into the spiritual fetus in Lady Yin's body. The Spirit Pearl and the demonic orb merging into one would not only allow Nezha to be born earlier but also allow him to possess stronger power in advance and kill the 3rd prince of the Dragon King sooner. Half a year later, Nezha was born smoothly. After birth, his body was half demonic patterns and half spiritual patterns. It scared his father, Li Jing, who almost drew his sword to kill this monster. Fortunately, Lady Yin desperately stopped him, saving Nezha. As Nezha grew up, the demonic and spiritual patterns on his body gradually faded, which finally made his parents breathe a sigh of relief. 3 years later, Immortal Master Tai of Qianyuan Mountain, Jingguang Cave, came to the Li residence, took Nezha as his disciple, and gave him the Universe Sash and the Chenkin Ring. Immortal Master Tai taught Nezha for several months, then went out on business. As soon as he left, Nezha went to play by the sea. You had already tied up the 3rd prince of the Dragon King and thrown him in front of Nezha. After the 3rd prince of the Dragon King woke up, he believed that Nezha had kidnapped him. One person and one dragon fought fiercely. As a result, the 3rd prince was skinned and had his tendons pulled out by Nezha. This caused a great disaster, and the Dragon King wanted to flood Chintang Pass. Seeing his father wanting to hand him over to atone for the crime, Nezha directly returned his bones to his father and his flesh to his mother, dying on the spot. Unexpectedly, after his death, the power of the demonic orb was activated, causing him to revive and transform into a demonic person, with an extremely tyrannical personality. At this moment, he was simply a demonic child descending into the world. Nezha did not want to harm the people of Chintang Pass and tried his best to control himself. He roared, "To hell with this damn fate, my fate is up to me, not to heaven." Then, starlight sprinkled from the sky. His chaotic star had awakened. When you reached out to capture him, time and space suddenly froze, an old Taoist appeared, waved his whisk, and brought you into the spatial turbulence. Old ancestor Hongjun, you were startled, not expecting this old Taoist to have been secretly observing. Old ancestor Hongjun said expressionlessly, Your Excellency has already captured Fox Moon Star, and now you are attacking the chaotic star. Do you intend to capture all the immortal emperors of my primordial? You said that was precisely your intention. Upon hearing this, old ancestor Hongjun, who had been expressionless, showed a hint of anger on his face. He said, It seems your excellency regards my primordial as having no one. Very well, then let me experience your excellency's brilliant moves. 498. 100 Swords of the Immortal, the Jade Disc of Creation. Sacrifice Nezha, breaking through the 7th realm of the Immortal Emperor. With that, innate spirit treasures of immense power flew out from old ancestor Hongjun's body, many of them top-tier innate spirit treasures, emanating an ancient aura. These were the accumulated resources from his many years of existence. So many magic treasures, deployed together in a formation, could be said to be world-destroying. You showed no fear, taking out the immortal slaying sword formation and its sword diagram. To obtain all the imperial stars of the great wilderness, a conflict with old ancestor Hongjun was inevitable. The epic calamity was approaching. This might be his last opportunity to become an immortal venerable in this epic, and he couldn't possibly hand it over. Therefore, he had to overcome this hurdle. In the end, it still came down to a direct confrontation. Old ancestor Hongjun's innate spirit treasures, totaling 72, formed the Star Do Great Formation. This was the most powerful formation of the Great Wilderness Yao race during the ancient Chaos era, with the 2 supreme stars, the Taiyan and the Sun, as the main formation eyes, and personally deployed by old ancestor Hongjun, making him almost unrivaled among half-step immortal exalted. And your immortal slaying great formation was equally impressive. Both the immortal swords used for the formation and the formation diagram were crafted from top-tier innate spirit treasures. When fully unleashed, even an old half-step immortal exalted like old freak Shimo was instantly suppressed. The 2 great formations were like a needle meeting a needle. They caused the Tao principles in the spatial currents to become chaotic and disordered. Many immortal realm dimensions were even destroyed by the bottle's lingering effects that spread outwards. However, old ancestor Hongjun's trump card was not just the Star Do Great Formation. He was born at the very beginning of ancient times, older than some immortal venerables. Later, he obtained a jade creation disc fragments. He wielded 5 Tao principles. Each one far surpassed old freak Shimo's Shimo Tao principles. When unleashed all at once, it instantly made it difficult for you to bear, your body cracking as if you would be suppressed in the next moment. Damn it, you're making me do this. Golden light erupted beneath your feet, and the 28th grade merit golden lotus appeared. With the blessing of karma, your combat power surged 100-fold. You finally withstood this immense pressure. Old ancestor Hongjun's eyes revealed a look of surprise. This 28th grade merit golden lotus was the first of its kind in the chaos realm. Its boundless marvelous uses could make his path to immortal venerable smoother. Old ancestor Hongjun stroked his beard and said, This item is fated with this old Taoist. As expected of someone who taught Jayan and Junti, like master, like disciple. You looked at old ancestor Hongjun, who almost had the words, blatant robbery, written on his face, and sneered inwardly. If you want to snatch it, you'll need the ability. With the blessing of the merit golden lotus, your strength greatly increased. You could control even more immortal swords. Behind you, another 108 top-tier immortal swords reappeared. Even the well-informed old ancestor Hongjun showed a look of shock. 108 immortal swords, plus the previous 24, that's 132. All of them top-tier innate spirit treasures. Isn't this a bit too terrifying? 132 top-tier immortal swords, combined with the immortal slaying sword diagram, directly countered, putting old ancestor Hongjun at a disadvantage. Old ancestor Hongjun felt incredibly frustrated. He had lived for so long, yet he had never encountered such a lavish half-step immortal exalted. Your realm wasn't high, but your wealth was richer than some immortal venerables. You were simply a magic treasure monster. But that was fine, as long as he suppressed you, all these things would be his. His treasure-distributing rock would have treasures to distribute again. That's right, even at this point, old ancestor Hongjun was still confident of victory. He didn't put you in his eyes. Boom! The void realm shattered. A white jade fragment, emanating the divine might of the great Tao, emerged. Above innate supreme treasures were chaos spiritual treasure, and above chaos spiritual treasure were chaos supreme treasure. This white jade fragment was precisely a fragment of the chaos supreme treasure, the jade plate of fortune, from the beginning of creation. Even if it was less than 1% of a fragment, it was comparable to the most top-tier innate supreme treasures. After the jade creation disk fragments appeared, it almost froze time, making you unable to move. It unleashed a wisp of divine might, and in the next moment, you were directly shattered, leaving only a pile of ashes. But very quickly, under the restorative effect of the jade pool, you revived on the spot. Cold sweat poured down your face. It seemed you had still underestimated the jade plate of fortune. You didn't expect a fragment to possess such divine might. However, old ancestor Hongjun's face did not show a smile. Just as he was entangled with you, Neja was actually abducted by another mysterious powerful being. There were accomplices. Old ancestor Hongjun's chest heaved, clearly extremely enraged. He no longer held back, activating the jade plate of fortune, attacking you frantically. Since your accomplice had abducted Neja, he would recover his losses from you. On the other side, after your other Tao body abducted Neja, he tried to swap his divine soul with old freak Shimo. However, he found that soul swapping couldn't take away his star destiny, so he directly threw him into the doomsday altar. The demon star has descended, but I'm sorry. Who told you that you were an imperial star? If you don't sacrifice him today, you will most likely be sacrificed by old ancestor Hongjun in the future. Instead of fulfilling old ancestor Hongjun, it's better to fulfill yourself. After all, you watched him grow up and even gave him the demonic pill. You were the one who silently protected him. What's wrong with sacrificing him? This was just him repaying a debt of gratitude. Neja said that fate is not determined by heaven, but you are not heaven, you are human, so it's fine if it's determined by you, right? As soon as Neja was sacrificed, a mysterious existence descended once again. You said, old rules. Boom, your cultivation realm once again increased rapidly. The Lingxiao Palace, which was originally 40% solidified within your body, completely condensed in just 2 to 3 breaths. You broke through to the 7th realm of Immortal Emperor, and your strength advanced further. The Lingxiao Palace primarily controls immortal artifacts. It allows immortal cultivators to maximize the power of immortal artifacts. The Tao body, which was being brutally abused by old ancestor Hongjun, suddenly saw the power of the Merit Golden Lotus and the immortal slaying sword formation in his hands surge. Finally, he was no longer instantly killed by the jade creation disk fragments. He could withstand a few more blows before dying. Old ancestor Hongjun was startled by the sight. So you, young fellow, are a demon star. He had originally been worried whether you had some powerful backer. Now he was completely relieved. A demon star was the public enemy of all immortal cultivators. No matter which force you originated from, you were destined to fight alone. Your expression was solemn. Continuing like this was not a solution. Neja had already been sacrificed, and now it was time to prepare to escape. Old ancestor Hongjun's expression darkened when he saw you trying to escape. You were already powerful and extremely difficult to deal with, and you were also a demon star. If he let you escape this time, it would be almost impossible to stop you next time. He made a decisive decision, forming a strange hand seal and blasting it towards you. At the same time, the jade plate of fortune glowed brightly. The two combined to pull your divine soul into a strange place. 499. Traveling through the wilderness, immortal mystical art. Seizing the bodies of Baifeng, Hongjun and Luoho. Before your eyes, you experienced various bizarre worlds, and it seemed as though you even traveled through the river of time. When you woke up, you found that you had become a pangolin. This was not a pangolin of later generations, but the old ancestor of pangolins. What was that? It was still a pangolin. As far as your eyes could see, there were towering mountains and giant trees that blotted out the sky. The air was filled with extremely pure immortal chi, its density not at all inferior to the 7th heaven. In the high sky, there were also flocks of immortal birds flying by. However, your cultivation realm was very low, only at the earth immortal realm. What on earth was this place? The pangolin's body didn't have any extra information, so you grabbed a few small Yao beasts nearby and asked them. They only knew this was the Myriad Transformation Mountain Range. As for the name of this world, they didn't know either. However, they did know that a saint named Hongjun had recently appeared and was going to preach in the chaos. Anyone with sufficient strength could go to the Purple Cloud Palace in the Chaos Heaven to listen to the Tao. So, you had arrived in the primordial domain. And it was during Hongjun's sermon. In the present world, the primordial domain had long been destroyed, becoming the Emperor ruins. Was this an illusion woven by old ancestor Hongjun to deal with you? Or was it the real primordial domain? You discovered that your divine soul power was sealed, and you could only use about 10% of it. Your current divine soul power was simply unable to discern whether this world was real or fake. Moreover, all your talents were completely unusable. You also couldn't use the Eye of Illusory Breaking. It should be because the Jade Plate of Fortune status was too high, suppressing the Hongmeng Dao Palace. Besides this, you found that your divine soul power was slowly draining away. For every day that passed, 1% was lost. If 2 or 3,000 years passed, the divine soul power you could use would probably only be less than 0.5%. So, old ancestor Hongjun was going to use this method to deal with you. To make you gradually lose the power to resist. After a few days, you discovered that cultivating could strengthen your divine soul power and slow down this loss. As long as your cultivation speed was fast enough, you could even increase your divine soul power. But this was merely a means to prevent divine soul loss. If Hongjun didn't play fair and directly attacked, you would be no match at all. This pangolin was too weak now. The Earth Immortal Realm was almost the lowest level of ant in this primordial domain. Moreover, its bloodline limit was extremely low. It was estimated that cultivating to the Golden Immortal Realm would be its limit. Hongjun was already a saint at this time. What could you use to fight him? There were so many divine beasts and rare species in the primordial domain, yet you transmigrated into a pangolin. This must have been intentional on Hongjun's part. Although your comprehension ability was heaven-defying, trying to fight Hongjun as a pangolin, even self-destruction would be hopeless. If you wanted to turn the tables, you definitely had to be ingenious. Another month passed. You crafted 2 immortal blades for self-defense. At this time, you were a dual-blade pangolin. Half a year later, you had a general understanding of the surrounding environment and the primordial domain's cultivation system. The cultivation system in the primordial domain at this time was relatively crude, completely incomparable to later generations. It was roughly divided into Earth Immortal, Heavenly Immortal, Profound Immortal, True Immortal, Golden Immortal, Grand Unity, Grand Tao, Quasi-Saint, Saint, Supreme Saint, and Tao Integration. Among them, a saint was only comparable to an immortal king of later generations. Supreme Saint and Tao Integration were realms that Hongjun gradually perfected later on. Corresponding to Immortal Emperor and Half-Step Immortal Exalted. Your biggest advantage now was your divine soul. Although you could only use 10%, it was still the top-tier existence in the primordial domain. Instead of using your comprehension ability to improve the pangolin, you felt it would be better to fully utilize your divine soul advantage. However, your divine soul could only attach itself to the pangolin and could not leave the body. Otherwise, wouldn't it be wonderful to directly possess a divine beast? No need to think, this must have been Hongjun's doing. He couldn't make you leave your body, so you really wouldn't follow his rules. You began to research methods for your divine soul to leave the body. Your comprehension ability was heaven-defying, and 3 years later, you successfully deduced the undying profound art. You still couldn't directly leave your body, but as long as someone destroyed your body, you could possess the person who killed you based on the karma divine law. In other words, whoever kills you, you possess them. As long as their divine soul power wasn't stronger than yours, it was almost impossible to resist this possession. Isn't this much better than Kuhaha cultivating? You began to inquire about who the strongest Yao beast in the Myriad Transformation Mountain Range was. Soon, you found out clearly that it was the divine beast Baifang army. Golden Immortal Realm. However, the Baifang army lived in an active volcano tens of thousands of miles away from here. It would take some effort to travel there. With your current weak strength, you held your dual blades and stabbed the ancient crocodile in the nearby secluded pool, which was at the heavenly immortal realm. It swallowed you in one bite, and you possessed it in return. Along the way, you possessed multiple times. When you arrived at the active volcano, you had become a profound immortal realm coiling snake. Your strength didn't rely on cultivation, it relied entirely on possession along the way. When you trespassed into the Baifang army's territory, it spewed a mouthful of flames, burning you to ashes. Then, You became it. The golden immortal realm was much more comfortable, you could go to many places. Next, you set your sights on the top experts of the primordial domain. The most powerful were definitely the quasi-saints below the saint, comparable to the immortal lord of later generations. According to the Baifang army's memory, there were indeed quite a few quasi-saints in the primordial domain at this time. There was no need to mention Hongjun's 6 future disciples, whether it was their origin or strength, they were top-tier existences below him. But you definitely couldn't come into contact with Hongjun too early, you still needed time to develop. Besides his 6 disciples, the 12 ancestral shamans, Emperor Jun, Eastern Emperor Tai, Kunpeng, the good-natured Red Cloud, Old Ancestor Nether River, Old Ancestor of Earth Immortals Gen Yuanzi, etc., were all quasi-saint experts. The Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin 3 clans had declined after their struggle for supremacy, but a starved camel is still bigger than a horse, and there should also be quasi-saints in their clans. However, the one you favored the most was not these people, but Demon Ancestor Luohu. Old Ancestor Hongjun was one of the earliest beings to appear after the birth of the primordial domain. And he obtained the Jade Creation Disc fragments. He was basically invincible all the way. But Demon Ancestor Luohu was the biggest enemy he encountered before becoming a saint. Finally, he united with a group of primordial domain experts to barely kill him. After killing Luohu, Old Ancestor Hongjun devoured the immeasurable luck he had condensed, and only then did he finally step into the saint realm. 500. Targeting the sticks, returning to the tribe. Thousands of years of grudges, seizing the body of the tribe leader. Unfortunately, Rahu is already dead at this point in time. Otherwise, if I could possess him, the chances of defeating Hongjun would increase by who knows how much. You remember that in a previous simulation, you also encountered an immortal king named Rahu in the immortal realm. Names cannot be called casually, or it will cause great karma. I wonder if there is any connection between the two. Or is it that Rahu has not completely died? No matter if he has completely fallen, it is difficult for you to find him now. Your target is still among the current quasi-saints. You finally set your sights on Old Ancestor Minghe. This guy's life-saving ability is very strong, known as, the blood sea does not dry, Minghe does not die. Secondly, his cultivation improves very quickly, he only needs to constantly kill to rapidly increase his cultivation. In the primordial era, only Hongjun's 6 disciples became saints in the early days. In other words, without his nod, it was impossible to become a saint. Hongjun has firmly grasped the high-end combat power of the primordial era in his own hands. You are his enemy, and sooner or later you will go against the entire primordial era. Then it is better to walk the Tao of killing. Old Ancestor Minghe resides in the Yuming Blood Sea. It is too far from the Myriad Flowers mountain range. With the strength of a Baifang Golden Immortal, it would take at least 200 or 300 years to reach. The divine beast Baifang has its own clan. It was driven out because it offended the clan chief's son. The old ancestor with the highest cultivation in the clan is a Grand Unity Golden Immortal. If you possess him, it would only take 2 or 3 years to travel. He's the one. Baifang is also known as the Fire Bird. Its clan also lives in a large volcano. You spent half a year to arrive at its clan, but you were ridiculed by the clansmen. Isn't this Yan Chuan, that despicable villain? Does he still have the face to come back? Yan Chuan is the name of the Baifang you possessed. 1,000 years ago, he won first place in the clan's trial grounds. At the last moment, he even helped Yan Wenjing, the clan chief's son. Unexpectedly, Yan Wenjing bit him back, saying that he was the first, and Yan Chuan was just a despicable villain who received his help and still tried to snatch his ranking. The trial grounds were isolated from the outside world. Everyone only saw the two of them walk out of the trial grounds together. Yan Chuan was dedicated to cultivation and had a relatively solitary personality. Yan Wenjing, on the other hand, had extensive connections and was the clan chief's son, with limitless prospects. Everyone naturally chose to believe Yan Wenjing's words. Yan Chuan tried hard to argue for himself, but was instead beaten by his clansmen. Yan Ying, the childhood sweetheart who had promised to stay with him for life, also left him and followed Yan Wenjing. Yan Chuan was incredulous and questioned, why? Yan Ying held Yan Wenjing's arm and said with adoration, I only follow the most powerful prodigy in the clan. Since Yan Wenjing is first, I naturally want to be with Yan Wenjing. Hearing this, Yan Chuan left the clan land like a walking corpse. He desperately cultivated outside, determined to reclaim everything he had lost. Of course, he never managed to turn the tables in the end, instead, he was possessed by you. The cultivation he had worked hard for his entire life also benefited you. It's truly tragic. However, since you have obtained his physical body, you might as well help him fulfill his last wish. Everything that was lost must be taken back. You said that you had important matters to report to the old ancestor of the clan, matters concerning the survival of the clan, and told them not to block your way. They surrounded you, pointing and gesticulating, and simply refused to let you pass. Before long, Yan Wenjing, with his arm around Yan Ying's waist, arrived here. Because he had taken Yan Chuan's first place 1,000 years ago, he was highly valued within the clan. Under the supply of vast resources, even if he did not deliberately cultivate, his strength was still one minor realm higher than yours, being a golden immortal middle stage. Yan Wenjing mercilessly mocked you, telling you to immediately get out of the clan land, or he would not be polite. Yan Ying also said, "Brother Yan Wenjing has already been magnanimous to you, why don't you hurry up and get out?" But you heard a hint of guilt in Yan Wenjing's words. He dared not let you see the old ancestor. If the truth came out, he would fall from heaven into hell. 1,000 years ago, when Yan Chuan wanted to seek justice from the old ancestor, he was also desperately prevented by him. But you obviously couldn't be scared away by his few words. A hint of gloom flashed in Yan Wenjing's eyes. 1,000 years ago, you were indeed first, but after so many years, his realm was already higher than yours. Now, he would openly defeat you in front of everyone. Immediately, Yan Wenjing directly attacked you. Although your realm was lower, your combat experience was far superior to Yan Wenjing's. In just 3 or 5 moves, you severely injured him, leaving him collapsed on the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded at this sight. How could the strongest prodigy in the clan be defeated by someone whose realm was lower than his? And this person was the despicable villain he spoke of. Could it be that what Yan Chuan said back then was true, that he was the first in the trial grounds? The commotion here soon alerted clan chief Yan Fanghai. Yan Fanghai arrived and immediately shouted sternly, "Little beast, how dare you cultivate a demonic technique?" Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder he was so powerful, it turned out he had cultivated a demonic technique. It seems that after leaving the clan, Yan Chuan had gone astray, resorting to any means for power. Yan Fanghai was a grand unity golden immortal. Of course, he could discern whether you had cultivated a demonic technique or not. His words showed he was determined to protect his son. Yan Jia, Yan Wenjing's mother, also arrived here. She picked up the heavily injured Yan Wenjing, her heart aching. Then she turned her phoenix eyes, filled with murderous intent, and said, "How dare you hurt my son, Fanghai, kill this little beast for me." Yan Fanghai was about to act. However, a voice suddenly came from the direction of the old ancestor's seclusion. "Wait. Damn it, is he going to ruin your plans?" Seeing this, you immediately rushed towards Yan Fanghai. Yan Fanghai was still hesitant, but seeing this, he was overjoyed and directly struck out with a fiery palm, killing you. This was old ancestor Yan Tianshang, who transformed into a ball of flame and landed here. He roared in anger, "Didn't I tell you to stop?" Yan Fanghai paused for a moment, already possessed by you. He bowed his hands apologetically and said, "Old ancestor, you saw it yourself, it was this kid who rushed at me." Quote. Yan Tianshang snorted coldly, "Actually, I also heard about what happened back then. Since he's dead, I'll search his divine soul to see who was lying." A hint of panic flashed in the eyes of Yan Wenjing and his mother. Apparently, there were quite a few people who knew the truth. Yan Jia quickly winked at Yan Fanghai, telling him to stop the old ancestor. Unexpectedly, Yan Fanghai stood still, unmoving. You had said you would fulfill Yan Chuan's last wish. Although you had possessed him earlier, you had not completely destroyed his divine soul. The truth, it's time for it to be revealed.